Author's Patreon link is in the description. Don't forget to support him if you like the story.
Since many of you are asking for a Game of Thrones fanfic, here G.O.T fanfic I found. Next time don't forget to provide the link so I find the fanfics easily. Chapter 1. Chapter 1. So I died, and the first thing that I see is an old man standing in front of me. I am sorry, but I have to say that you are dead. The old sighed. My death was gruesome. I was eaten by a shark. Well, partly. Apparently sharks don't like humans, too many bones. So after he took my leg, he left bleeding out, so yeah. I hate sharks. I imagined as much. I chuckled drily as I inspected the room I was in. We were, for some reason, under the ocean. The water stretched out as far as the eye could see, perhaps symbolizing how I died. Amidst all the water there was a living where we sat together on a European sofa, at least I think so. The old man I suspected to be God, had a minibar with chocolates and drinks, nothing with alcohol, which was what I needed right now. It kind of felt like a doctor's waiting room. The room wasn't wet, thanks to his godly powers I imagine, but in the end, it was all very classic, if nothing else. So do you greet everyone that dies? I inquired, filled with curiosity. God stared at me for a second, before answering, no, saints normally, I decided to greet you because, it's my fault you died. Sorry. Okay. I gotta ask, how is your fault thought? I was dead, and he was God. Being angry wasn't going to bring my life back, but I am quite curious how an almighty being messes up. Well, I might have accidentally dropped a shark close to you, and I might have noticed that a tad late. God offered, clearly embarrassed. How the fuck you accidentally drop? No, be the better person and don't ask. Okay, that explains nothing, but anyways, what now? Normally, you would go to heaven or get your soul recycled, but after this blunder I can't, I must repay you. God said with conviction. I suppose getting my ass back to live is out of the question. I mean, you would have offered. I sighed. Yes, once a soul leaves the mortal realm in this realm, said soul can't re-enter. I made the rules, I can't bend them, but I can send you to another world. God added in the end with a smile. What world though? If it was a bad world, I think I would rather enjoy eternal bliss, or boredom in heaven. What world? I think is commonly known in your realm as Westeros, or Game of Thrones, God added excitedly. Oh yes, the book series that taught me to never get attached to a character ever again. I remembered when Ned Stark died, I wanted to kill Joffrey myself. Would you look at that? I can do that now. While I find the idea, really, and I mean really interesting, I would die in a matter of hours. I work in IT, my skill set is useless there, I informed him. I know that's why you will enter the Wheel of Fortune. You will get 3 random powers. Isn't that great? I mean, you can technically get something useless, like the power to control a cup of water, but you can also get the really good stuff. God chuckled. The prospect of getting 3 powers was quite exciting, and could very well prove to make my new life in Westeros easier. Alright, let's see what I get, I nodded. God smiled and complied, making a wheel of fortune appear in front of me. Roll. Nodding, I took the wheel and spun the shit out of it. I couldn't really see what was going on, the wheel was going fast and I didn't understand the language written over it, so it was extra stressful for me. The wheel eventually stopped, on something I couldn't read, so I gave God a look that said, please translate. Oh, sorry, I haven't updated the language on that thing since the dawn of humanity, never got to use it. Let's see, your first power is having Captain America's power, aka the Super Soldier Serum, God said. The Super Soldier body, that one alone made my life easier, in that world. So without further delay, I spun the wheel again, wondering what I would get this time. Once again the wheel stopped, and God translated, smiling widely at this one, you got a power inspired in me. Gondolfer, also known as the left hand of God. I knew this power, it was from an old anime I saw. If I remember correctly, the primary power of a gondolfer is absolute mastery of any item meant for combat, from swords and pistols to artillery cannons and fighter aircraft. Not that some of those weapons are going to be available for me. Awesome, super bod and a master of arms, great, I smiled. Destiny was definitely smiling at me. I spun the wheel again, wondering what would be my last power. When the wheel decided to stop, God started to laugh, as he translated, "You got the right hand of God, Winterfell." I got both the right and left hand of God, my last power. Winterfell, or the right hand of God, has the special ability to control animals, be it a dog or a dragon. My bond with them would surpass anything. I guess that's all. I smiled. I was quite happy with the luck I had on those spins. It could have been worse, but I got some nice powers. Yes, it is. Now enjoy being a baby again. God chuckled, and before I could ask or say something, the world around me faded. During that brief moment, all I could think of was, fuck. Year 283 AC. Pain, crushing and excruciating pain, that's what welcomed me after my talk with God. I felt I was in a wet and tight cave that wanted to crush me. Oh God, this is my birth, isn't it? If I could scream, I would, but unfortunately, my vocal cords didn't obey me. Push, my lady, I can see the head, a woman said, encouraging my new mother to push the heck out of me. If I could encourage her, I would. This is bad for both of us, obviously worse for her, but still. One more push, the woman said, and a second after I was in the outside world. I was so happy to be out, I felt like I was about to die. Let me see my son, my mother said weakly. Her tone was crossing a line that told me she was going to die. My sweet, little lord, you will be known as Ronard Mormont. After that silence followed, she stopped breathing. She had lived just long enough to give me a name. War. Not only I was reincarnated in a secondary house, but I was also reincarnated in times of war. I didn't even have time to process that my new mother died seconds after giving birth to me. I can see the worry on everyone's faces. They are worried about who's going to win this war. I made my calculations, based on what I know, timeline-wise. It took me some time, but I think I know. It's not like I can do much besides crapping myself. Robb Stark, Jon Snow and I should be around the same age, which means that the war is already ending. If I'm older than them, it would be by a few months at best. Which also lead to my next deduction. My father was Yoram Mormont. In the books, his first wife died after giving birth 3 times to stillborn babies. I was the change on that. She still died, but I came to this world. In a few years, he would meet a really young girl for him, and he would fuck his life over when I didn't know. Being a baby with no coordinated control over my body limits my activities to this, deducing stuff. 5 months later. Being a baby is excruciatingly painful. I can't do shit, scratch that, all I can do is shit. I have a super body, but I'm limited to what my underdeveloped body allows me to do. I never thought how hard and difficult this scenario was. Anyway, after 5 months I finally met my father. He was, just like the TV show, but taller and with dark hair, brown, like a grizzly. Hey, fitting. He was caring, I suppose. He was happy that he had a son, but nothing beyond that. My grandfather, aka Georg Mormont, he apparently had gone to the wall, way before I was born, which meant I wasn't going to meet him anytime soon. 1 year later. I can finally walk, and talk, and anyone can bet their asses I potty train myself as soon as my bowels allowed me to. I finally recovered some of my human decency. I also discovered that the tattoos that should be on my hands, well, weren't, but I knew I had the power. In other matters, I discovered a few things. First, House Mormont is pretty poor, I mean pretty poor. Which was something I intended to change as soon as I could. I had many ideas already. I remembered many stuff from my world, like how to make mirrors, good mirrors, not like those craps they have around here. No wonder some think they look good. I also remembered thanks to my dad, my other universe dad, how to make vodka, whiskey, and rum. The alcoholic beverages along would make my ass so rich. But for now, I had to bide my time. I was learning how to do everything I knew before, physically speaking again. My body even as a baby was more durable, and could do stuff no baby could. 5 years later, year 289 AC. I had forgotten entirely about the Greyjoy rebellion. Father went back to war. But I wasn't concerned with this situation. I know we will win. On other matters, I'm 6, and I started practicing with the sword a year ago, and everyone thinks I'm a genius. I can't beat adults yet, but they have a hard time winning. After the war, my father married another woman. She's young enough to be my sister, and she's quite the spoiled brat. She's 16, my father is almost twice her age. The moment he arrived from the south with her, I knew she was the one that would ruin him. I tried to bring this up to him. She wastes money like a fucking queen, but instead of listening, he slapped me, his 6-year-old son. That was the moment I lost all empathy for him. I didn't cry or show signs that it hurt, because it didn't. I just simply stood and left. The little bitch also lives whispering that once she gets with a child, I won't be needed in this household anymore. Fucking bitch. If J.K. Rowling made a novel out of her, it would be named Harry Potter and the Audacity of This Bitch. 4 years later, year 293 AC. I was 10 years old. I was officially unbeatable with any weapon. I was the best in any category. The Master of Arms was shocked to see how good I was, saying this level of skill was ridiculous for a kid. I feel like I'm cheating, which is good. I like cheating, makes things easier, only when it's necessary though, like avoiding certain death. My father had already started to dwell in some dark shit, slaves and stuff to pay his debts, the debt he acquired pleasing the bitch. House Mormont was in bankruptcy, thanks to the gold digger my father married. It didn't take long before Lord Stark, aka Ned Stark, discovered what my imbecile of a father was doing. My father was sentenced to death. Like in the canon, he escaped, before Ned Stark arrived to cut his head off. I knew this was the last time I would see him, and yet I felt nothing. I cared for him once, but after he started to mistreat me to please that bitch, well, I lost that feeling. The one good thing that came out of this was that I inherited Longclaw, and that I was the Lord of House Mormont now. Are you alright, little cub? Maege Mormont, also known as the current she-bear, asked. She was my aunt. I told him that woman was only going to bring problems. I sighed as I took a long look at my new sword. We all did, my lord, Maege smiled sadly, but I knew deep down she was furious. Her brother, my father, had fucked out honor with his sins, and we would carry with it forever. Let me know when Lord Stark arrives, I said, letting her know I wanted to be alone. I wasn't sad, but I wasn't happy. Lord Stark arrived, a few days later, going immediately to my office to greet me. Lord Mormont, Ned Stark greeted. Lord Stark, I said with a small bow, as I offered him a seat. Do you know where your father went? Ned Stark went directly to the point. I looked at him for a second before I answered. All I know is that he left me this mess to fix. Sorry for the language. Ned Stark nodded, understanding what I meant. So what now, Lord Stark? I inquired. Your father will be stripped of everything. He is an enemy of the North now, Lord Stark said in a cold tone. What about me? I inquired, hoping this wasn't one of those father's sins that the son has to pay. You will have to lead, being so young, Lord Stark chuckled. I think that's punishment enough, but not that you deserve any punishment. You are more friendly than I imagined, I smiled. Too bad, we met under this circumstances. But that doesn't mean our friendship can't grow, Ned Stark nodded. I nodded. Now that I was the Lord of House Mormont, I had to fix our economic problem. I would make House Mormont one of the wealthiest houses in Westeros before the game and war started. Chapter 2. After Lord Stark left, I started to go over our books, and boy, I didn't understand shit with this coin system. But after a thorough comparison with my old coin, aka the dollar, and the prices I remembered, on the top of my head, I had some understanding of how this coin worked. The coins this world has are copper coins. Halfpenny, lowest possible denomination. Penny equals 2 halfpennies. Half groat, equals 2 pennies. Groat, equals 4 pennies. Star, equals 2 groats or 8 pennies. Silver coins. Stag, equals 7 stars or 56 pennies. Moon, equals 49 stars or 392 pennies. Gold coins. Dragons, equals 30 moons, 210 stags or 11,760 pennies. Now after finding the prices of stuff like bread and water. For example, a piece of bread being 1 penny, and water being half a penny. I came to the conclusion 1 penny was equal to $1. Which in turn, meant 1 gold dragon was equal to $11.760. This accurate conclusion only made me sadder, because all our house had was 19 silver stags. My dear old dad took all that was left with him to Essos, leaving us worse than ever. In the records it shows we once had over 9,867 gold dragons, we lost it all, he spent technically over $100 million on that bitch. Leaving me with $1,056 equivalent. I have many ideas, but how the fuck can I apply them with so little money, I sighed, as I sat on my office, this was going to be harder than I thought. Perhaps I could get a loan from House Stark, but that was risky at much. Father already betrayed them and made a crack in our relationship whether we like it or not. The Iron Bank would never give us shit, they only give to big houses or the crown. But I had to think fast, not only my house was broke but we were in debt, with over 10,000 gold dragons. My lord, Lady Maege, wants to see you, a servant said bowing. Send her in, I ordered him. The servant did as he was told, bringing my aunt to the room. How bad is it, my lord? Maege smiled sadly. Bad, we are dirt poor thanks to that man, I admitted. Maege nodded. How is little, Lyanna? I asked, trying to lighten the mood. She is good, strong as her mother, Maege smiled proudly, she wants to see you when you can of course. I will try, the gods know I have my work cut out for me. I chuckled. So, any ideas on how to fix our situation? Maege inquired, taking a seat across my desk. Many, but I need money for all of them, I need at least 1,000 gold dragons with that I would fix our economic problems permanently, I informed. Maybe we can get a loan with Lord Stark. Maege offered. It's a sound idea, but that man destroyed part of our relationship with the Starks, I sighed. He did, but the Starks are honorable, I know they will help us, no matter how much dishonor that bastard brought us, Maege said, growling at the end. Very well, then I trust you to go to the Starks, and get me that money. I asked. You will have it, my lord, Maege smiled, nodding. Maege left soon afterwards, leaving little Lyanna with me. With Maege on the mission, I decided to train my swordplay a bit, while my blessings like the right hand of God gave me total mastery over weapons, practicing made evolve, and get to know the weapon. It also helped me create muscle memory. My body, thanks to the super soldier serum running in my veins, was already stronger than the majority of adults. I could swing long claw with ease, I could only imagine how strong I would get when my body actually turned into that of a man. I wasn't anything like Steve, aka Captain America. My hair was black, and my eyes were silver-colored, I probably took after my mother. As I trained, I could head Lyanna giggling as she stared at me with awe. Awesome, Lyanna said with an awestruck expression. You want to fight, don't you? I asked with a chuckle, I knew all Mormont women had the choice to learn if they wanted to. Yes. I will be a strong bear. Lioness said solemnly as she took a stick and swung it as if it was a sword. Wow, even I am cowering in fear, little she-bear, I chuckled as Lioness pouted, let's go back, I'm hungry. To my surprise, Lord Stark agreed to help us and gave us 2,000 gold dragons. Maedge said the man didn't even hesitate, saying it was his duty as the Warden of the North to help us, however, he could. And I was grateful because I was close to firing everyone in the household. With 2,000 gold dragons, I could keep them and start my business. In a world where whores and alcohol rule, you need to capitalize on one of the two, and because I find the idea of being a pimp disgusting, I decided to capitalize on the other option. After a talk with the builders and the local engineer, I commissioned the alcohol factory for my whiskey, vodka, and rum. My dad, the one from my past life, had a factory that did the exact same thing, artisanal whiskey, vodka, and rum, so I knew the damn process by memory. God knows my dad made sure of it, and now I'm glad. In a year, the factory would be finished, and I would start producing liquid gold. I had to avoid expending during this time. The factory I wanted, it cost me around half the money I had borrowed from the Starks. So I had to play my cards carefully for now. Alright, time to wait, I sighed. 1 year later, year 294 AC. I had waited for this day, so long, but the grisly alcohol factory was finally complete. I was happy I would have another income source for the house soon. Not because I need it, but money is always welcomed. After the factory opened, the workers were confused when I told them what to do because they never had to do it before, but I was a good boss. I explained to them how to do it after making sure to let them know they would die if they ever told anyone. I can have other houses like the Lannisters copying my shit. But everyone in the Bear Islands was extremely loyal. So with the factory finally producing artisanal alcohol, I went back to my other business. Fishing. You see, being able to control animals came quite handy in this situation. With the help of my 12 Krakens, I had become the #1 fish distributor in the north and maybe the 7 kingdoms. Nobody knew I was using Krakens, they just thought I discovered a new and improved fishing route. The workers had no idea 12 massive monsters were helping them to catch massive amounts of fish. With the fish production alone, House Mormont was making around 50,000 gold dragons a year, or 4,000 gold dragons a month. With this, I had paid the debts that man had left and paid the Starks what they loaned us. I wasn't the wealthiest house in the north yet, but I was self-sufficient now, which was awesome. 1 year later, year 295 AC. The alcohol was a boom, a massive boom, making around 150,000 gold dragons a year. This was just the first year. The first months were slow, but after they tried my product people went crazy. Am I glad this world is run by alcoholics? It was so good I had to commission 2 other factories. The Starks had, if my sources were correct, around 500,000 gold dragons in their treasury, which meant I was about in a year or 2 to surpass, economically speaking, the biggest house in the north. But this sudden success brought some unwanted attention. The Lannisters, twin, had an eye on me now. So far, I have discovered over 5 spies inside my house, that sadly found themselves in terrible accidents, the key word being accident. The other part of the unwanted attention was the massive wave of proposals. Everyone wanted to marry their daughter with me. At least within the small houses. But I didn't have time for that, not yet anyway. 1 year later, year 296 AC. I was 13 and boy, puberty hit me hard. I was starting to get taller, and muscles were starting to show more. By this point, I was officially the wealthiest house in the north. Making around 300,000 a year. My house had saved so far, 500,000 gold dragons. Now I had to fix another problem, our military power. We have around 200 soldiers, that's all our power. We need more than that, so with the help of Maedge, I started to recruit people. From orphans to anyone that wanted to learn how to use a sword. I put Maedge in charge of that, while I expanded our forces differently. A year ago, I started to collect bears. I had over 100 bears under my command. People just assumed it was because I had a deep connection with our sigil. Little did they know I could control animals in general. But it wasn't mind control, it was more the animals loved me, like a lot. But having bears to fight wasn't enough, I commissioned a set of armor and steel claws for each and every single one of them. I would have a small battalion of armored bears. And in the sea, I would have the Krakens to stop the Ironborn. I was preparing beforehand to win the upcoming war. Chapter 3. 1 year later, year 297. I was 14, and I was already over 6 foot tall. I had the same physique Captain America had, and I was officially unmatched in any type of combat. I was stronger than the Mountain, faster than Oberyn, and better with the sword than Arthur Dane. My fame as a warrior expanded through the 7 kingdoms, as the Prideful Bear on the north. Not only I had a fame for being a genius businessman, but I also had one for being a fearsome warrior. My spies, aka animals, informed that Tywin was furious with me. He couldn't allow a house in the north to change the economic balance that has been there for so long. He hasn't planned to kill me yet, but my little birds, and I mean literal little birds, is not a metaphor. Anyway, my little birds have told me how he is close to that point. Boy, he was going to suffer. Not even a faceless man can approach me and try to kill me. I have hundreds of animals watching, seeing every person in my castle constantly. If they see even the slightest change in their behavior, I would know it. Our army has increased considerably, not as much as I would have liked, but it was way better than I expected. We went from 200 soldiers to 4,000, many commoners wanted this opportunity, the pay was good compared to most other jobs, and they would get some respect. My bear division had grown a little over 300 armored bears. And I had increased the amount of Krakens protecting our sea from 12 to 24. The Greyjoys would suffer a lot when they started their second rebellion. On a military point, I was good, not as good as I wanted to be but good. I had increased my house gold income to 400,000 gold dragons a year after taxes. House Mormont had never been better. My lord, a servant said bowing. What is it? I inquired. I usually don't get people interrupting my training sessions unless it is important. A raven from House Stark, the servant said, handing me the unopened letter. Thanks, I said, taking the letter. The Starks had invited me to their house. They wanted to discuss some stuff with me, that and Lord Stark wanted to present me his son, and future heir, Robb Stark. Get a ship ready, and tell Lady Maedge to come to my office, I ordered the servant who ran as soon as I gave my orders. The Starks wanted something, but what, I suppose I would find out in their home. As I sat down, to wait for my aunt, I couldn't help but feel pride in what I did. I had ships, I had money, I had changed our house. I even upgraded the old wooden castle we had to a fortress. It was still in progress, but it was getting there. You called my lord? Maedge said, entering the room. Yes, I wanted to let you know I'll be gone for a while, so you are responsible while I'm away, I nodded. I will do my best, Maedge nodded. I knew I could trust on them, in my family in general. Ned Stark POV. In 4 years, the kid had turned one of the poorest houses in the north to the wealthiest one. He had solved every problem House Mormont had. In turn, we were booming with this. The north was getting a lot of money in taxes with them alone. They were around 50% of our income in taxes. But not only that, the young lord had amassed a fame for being not only the best warrior of his generation, but a kind and honorable one. He had yet to fight to survive, but the Mormonts never bragged about something if it wasn't true. I had learned that when I lost a drinking competition with Maedge, the she-bear. Ned, I don't think this is a good idea. Kat said. She was unsure of my idea. His father was a dishonorable man, and just recently his house climbed the ranks. Kat, I meet the lad, he's good, and this way, we'll solidify our alliance even stronger, I said, but I understood why she was so uncertain, but it mattered not. this was the right choice. At least my Sansa will be close to home, Kat sighed. We had discussed this for over a month. She didn't dislike the young lord, she thought our daughter could do way better, that she was fit to be a queen, and she was, but I didn't want my daughter in a lion's den if I had a better option in the north, her home. I said, kissing her forehead. Varys POV. Since the young lord of House Mormont took over, I had lost all my spies inside his house. All my little birds had gone silent, but I wasn't the only one. The Lannisters and the Tyrell were in the same position, or so sang my little birds. Lord Ronard Mormont, he was an enigma, and I don't like mysteries. Especially since my little birds sang to me that the Starks wanted to marry their oldest daughter with him. This could be both good or bad to the realm. The king wanted to marry his son to Lady Sansa, that had been something they had discussed over a year. The queen would be happy to know. Lord Varys, any news? Cersei was a dangerous woman, that thought herself to be cunning. She was, just not as much as she thought. You mean about the young lord of House Mormont? I inquired. I knew she was asking about that. Yes, Cersei nodded. Not much, my little birds don't sing as much as they once did in the Bear Island, I admitted. All I know, he is soon about to be betrothed to the oldest daughter of Lord Stark. Cersei smiled at this, which only reinforced my idea of her. She wasn't as smart as she thought she was. Tywin wanted to marry Myrcella to the young lord to unite the new rich lord to the crown, but Cersei was against the idea, saying no child of her would marry those savages in the north, no matter how rich they were. Tywin, of course, didn't care what she thought and planned to convince the king of this soon. But it was too late. The most honorable man in the Seven Kingdoms had won this play, without even knowing he was playing. Good, those savages should marry each other, Cersei smiled. I smiled as I left the room. Is quite ironic really, the woman sleeping with her brother, thinks of the North as savages just for their culture. What a funny thing. Back to Ronard. I was getting ready to go to Winter, Longclaw on my back, and the shield I had commissioned for me to be made. It wasn't vibranium, but I don't have dealers around. Aside from the joke, my shield was made entirely out of steel, a bit bigger than the one Captain America had, with a bear engraved on the shield. We are ready, my lord, the captain of the ship said, as I nodded to give him permission to sail. As the ship slowly started to move, I sat to eat while I wondered what could possibly be the reason for my summoning. Vodka, I ordered the waiter inside the ship, or should I say the wine boy, or vodka boy. I suppose, as I thought earlier, there is no point of wondering, I just have to wait. My little birds are not as present in the north as I would like them to be, mostly because I have the majority of them in possible threats like the Boltons, the Lannisters, the Tyrells, and of course the Freys. I had all my spy network with them, of all the houses, including the small one. The Starks were the less likely to pull one on me. So whatever it was will be beneficial for them and me. Tywin POV. A small house was rising the ladder quite fast. As of now, House Mormont was the fourth wealthiest house in Westeros. It took 4 years for that brat to accomplish that. He was close to surpassing the Baratheons economically speaking and put himself in the third place. The pace he was growing was alarming. I needed to get him on a leash, and Myrcella would serve as his leash to House Lannister. Not only was he rich but smart, as he had proved by eliminating my spies, every single one of them. Author note: the Lannisters want to chain him, while the Starks seek to solidify their alliance even more. More of this soon. By the way, he won't have a harem. I think I should clarify that. He will have one wife, and that's it. Chapter 4. Chapter 4. I arrived at Winterfell, a few days after I got the crow. I had brought gifts with me, a couple of dresses and some jewelry I had bought beforehand in the south for Sansa's birthday that was coming up soon, and I had to send something. But I decided to bring them in for this occasion. I would buy something for her birthday later. For Lord Stark, I brought 1 month's worth of fish and vodka. For Lady Stark, silk. For Robb, Jon, Bran, I brought weapons, the best a blacksmith could make. And for Arya, well, this one was hard. I knew she was a fighter, but coming with a weapon to her would put me under some bad spotlight, so I opted to get her something that she would like. Candy, lots of candy, for her and her little baby brother Rickon. "Welcome to Winterfell, Lord Mormont," Lord Stark greeted me as I got off my horse. "Thanks for the invitation, Lord Stark," I smiled as I bowed slightly. Behind him were his kids, Robb, Arya, Bran, his ward Theon, but the one that caught my adolescence hormone-fueled eye was Sansa. I never had the pleasure of seeing her before, this was my first time seeing her, and she was beautiful. Sansa Stark was beautiful, taking after her mother's family with her high cheekbones, and hypnotizing vivid blue eyes. She had a thick auburn hair. With only 11 years old, I stare in awe, not expecting her to be this beautiful. She has grown up to be incredibly hot. Her figure is tall, graceful, and womanly. Oh God, I like a girl, this is so wrong. I have to stop my thinking and look back at Lord Stark. I can't let myself fall for a child. While it's true I'm in another world, I can't forget how wrong it feels. Then again, we are both teens, but I have nothing to worry about. Is not as if I could get her. Sansa POV. Mother and father had instructed me that I would meet my possible future betrothed, Lord Mormont. I didn't like this at all. He wasn't the prince I wanted, my knight in shining armor. Holy old gods! Jane said, looking to the gates, "He is hot." "Jane, stop." I stopped. She was right. He was tall, muscular, handsome. He was nothing to what I expected. After my father greeted him, he stared at me for a full long minute, his piercing and beautiful silver eyes. I felt he was undressing me with his eyes. It felt good. Why did it felt good? Back to Ronard. After Lord Stark introduced me to all his children, he guided me to his office, where I would talk with him and his lady wife. I still had in my mind the little she-wolf, but I was safe. "I want to propose a betrothal between you and my oldest daughter," Lord Stark said, breaking my calculative exterior. And this moment, my mind was starting to reset. Ronard.exe not found, and I probably must have shown my surprise because Lady Stark offered me a drink. "Here you go, some water," Lady Stark said with a soft tone. Why? I inquired. This made no sense. My father was a traitor, my house was small. Yes, I made my house rich, and is growing, but people here see more the history than the current state of a house, and by history, House Mormont was not good enough. "You are a good lad, honorable, and with a good head on your shoulders," Lord Stark said with a smile. "I want my daughter to be safe, happy, and close to home, and I can't think of a better husband to do that than you." Oh God, this was... I mean, managing a business, easy. Improving my house, super easy, but this was unexpected. I don't know what to say. Look, I gotta be honest, Lady Sansa is beautiful, but I'm just some lord of a small house. I admitted. Then perhaps you are someone worthy enough, Lady Stark smiled. You are, of course, free to reject, Lord Stark added. Taking a full sip of my water, I started to analyze the situation. With me, she would be safe, out of the war, the Bolton bastard would not her, and she would be close to her family and would see them more often. I accept, it's an honor that you considered me worthy enough, I smiled. No man in the world is worthy enough for my little wolf, but you are the closest one to be worthy, Lord Stark smiled. Don't ever forget that, Lady Stark added, that woman can be downright terrifying. The look she gave me, send a message inside my brain, hurt my little girl, and I will break your balls. I smiled, good parents in this world were rare, I would know. After that, we went over the details on my betrothal, business deals with Winterfell, and stuff. I would have to marry Sansa after her first period, or how people called it, when she finally flowered. Which brought a totally new sense to the word deflowered. I was still incredibly uncomfortable with the idea of marrying someone under 18, but it was common for women to marry between the ages of 12 and 16 in Westeros. But like Tyrion, I would not lay on her bed until she wanted me to. I may have to follow this world and the rules, but I won't become a monster. Yay! After coming to an agreement, and improving with the Starks our commerce routes, I went to get ready for the party that was an honor to announce my betrothal with Lady Sansa. They had planned the party beforehand. They knew I wouldn't reject, because, in theory alone, Lady Sansa is the best possible lady in the north. The future Lady Mormont. I can already see my aunt, or should I say great aunt, is confusing, exploding with happiness. Everyone in House Mormont basically worships the Starks. We are the most loyal house to the Starks, in all this world. So I can only imagine that my betrothal will make them explode with happiness and pride in me. The Boltons would probably disagree, but if they tried something, I would enjoy destroying them. Especially, Ramsay Snow. There were 3 things that I hated, and I would never forgive. Those who enjoy giving suffering to others, those who, and those with no loyalty. He had 3 gold medals so far. The party was somewhat like all medieval parties: food, music, and wine. Maybe humanity hasn't evolved that much. So while the music was playing, I went and decided to dance with my future wife. The thought of it was weird. I would have to marry. I didn't marry in my old life. I died quite young, and thanks to God erasing part of my memory, I didn't remember much of it. But I knew for sure I didn't have a wife. And soon I would have to marry Lady Sansa. She was beautiful, but beauty alone didn't make a marriage last. I can only hope she and I will have something in common. It would be great if she could engage me not only physically but intellectually. A dance, my lady? I said, offering my hand. Yes, my lord, Sansa nodded as she gracefully took my hand. Once we were in the dance floor, I asked close to her ear, making her blush a bit. That was good. She found me attractive at least. I heard we are to be married, my lady. Sansa took a deep breath, trying to calm and tame her blush. I heard as well. I will strive to be a good wife, my lord. I chuckled, as I whispered her once again, I know we barely know each other, and there can't be love, yet, but I will try to win your heart, if you let me. Sansa was at this point so red that her hair looked white in comparison. Before I could add something else, Robb approached me, asking for a dance with his sister. So I decided to dance with Arya. As I smiled at the little girl stepping on my feet to dance, we weren't dancing, it was more of a game, that because Arya found the dance boring, so I wanted her to enjoy. You dance splendidly, Lady Arya, I chuckled. You're funny, I like it, Arya smiled, as I spun her around. Author's note: I know some of you want RMC with Myrcella, or Daenerys. But considering both would take too long for him to get the proposals, Sansa was the best option. Cersei would delay her father indefinitely, because no daughter of her should be in the north in her head. Daenerys won't even consider a Mormont until she sees what he can do. After saying that, have in mind that betrothals can be broken, depending on how the political game develops. Who knows who he will marry in the end, but so far Sansa is his fiancée. Chapter 5. Chapter 5. After the party ended, I decided to hang out more with Sansa. She was going to leave with me to Bear Island, part of our agreement. I had forgotten in these lands the lady goes to the man, is quite common it seems. I have no idea how long does it take a woman generally to get her first period, because diets, genetics and stuff come into play, but if I had to take a rough estimation, I would say we have a year or so before it happens. So with that in my mind, I decided to date her, for that time, take her out, dinner, stuff, show her that there is more than being a lady. Maybe even teach her how to use a bow, or how to fight, not that she will need it if we end up marrying. I won't let anyone touch her or get close to her with intentions of harming her. We leave in a week, my lady, I said, approaching her and offering a hand. I thought you might want to show me around. Sansa smiled as she took my hand while her friend Jane giggled behind her. It would be my honor. Sansa started to guide, showing me what she thought was the best in Winterfell, the gardens, towers. Do you have gardens in Bear Island? Sansa inquired. Nay, but I suppose that can change, I winked at her. Sansa giggled, well, then I will start looking where I can have a garden once we get to Bear Island. Whatever you want, my lady, I chuckled. I heard all Mormont women fight, Sansa said as she added, is that true? I nodded, but before she got the wrong idea, I added, fighting can be elegant too, you know. Sansa eyed me for a second before asking, how? I get that some people don't want to kill, or go to war, it's an understandable feeling, but like breathing we need to know how to defend ourselves, I said, and there are many ways to do so. You can fight like a barbarian, or dance around the battlefield. Dance around the battlefield, Sansa chuckled, that almost sounds poetic. The water dancers of Bravos are known for this, they fight elegantly, but with precision, I smiled. I don't know, Arya likes that. I find it unladylike, Sansa said. You are a lady, if you stab a bunny it makes it ladylike. Don't let others tell you what is or what is not ladylike, I chuckled. But Septa. Sansa tried to argue, but I stopped her. The lady that will never get married, and has never had a man, I joked. Don't be mean. Sansa laughed. So how about a picnic? I offered, changing the subject. But we have no food. Sansa tilted her head. I smiled and pointed at a horse that I had preciously sent to follow us from the shadows, with the picnic on his saddle. You said, my lady. I smiled as I approached the horse. How did you? Sansa tried to ask. Ah, sorry, my lady, can't reveal my secrets, is about 8% of my charm, what would I have left if you knew how I did stuff? I chuckled. One day, I will know, Sansa added. That day, you will be already head over heels for me, I whispered on her ear, making her blush. After our first official date, I can say that she's not a bad girl, just has bad ideas on her head that are the result of years of brainwashing from her mother and her teacher. I can see she doesn't want to fight or learn how to because she thinks it is unladylike. She never said she hates it, she just doesn't think a lady should do it. But I will show her a lady can do whatever she pleases, and still be a lady. Fuck the Septa. During my week prior to leaving, I made sure to talk and put some wisdom into her head while making sure we both enjoyed our dates. The first one was a picnic. The second one, I made up a treasure hunt, like the ones I used to do back on my past life, with clues, steps, and riddles. The prize arose. The third one, I showed her how to have fun. We had a snowball fight, the winner would get a kiss, even losing I was winning, safe to say I got my kiss. The fourth date we assaulted the kitchen, she was beyond reluctant to do it. Still, with the right words I managed to convince her, and made a pie-making competition. I have no idea how to bake a pie, she won by a lot on this one. By the end of the date I was fully covered in flour, but so was she. After losing so much I started a flour fight with her. I ended up getting a small peck on the lips again this time. We had 4 awesome dates so far. Ned Stark POV. Lord Mormont started to court my daughter almost immediately. I could see he was trying to win her favor and affections, and my daughter was enjoying it. At first, they started with a picnic, but soon things began to escalate. Treasure hunts, snowball fights, and they even assaulted my kitchen. Did you saw Sansa? She looked like a ghost, haha, Arya laughed. I did, I nodded. Sansa was opening to him, quite fast I might add. I made a good decision, he's putting the effort to make this work, and sometimes that's all it takes to make a relationship work. He was a good lad, I knew that since the day I saw him. He reinforced that when he brought gifts to all my children, including John. He will be a good husband, I'm glad he accepted. Ramsay Snow POV. Lord Mormont had been betrothed to Sansa Stark. Father didn't care, even though this went against his plans. But I cared, she was supposed to be mine, because soon I would be a Bolton. But it doesn't matter, the Stark bitch would be mine regardless. Accidents happen to the best of us, it will be so sad when a pack of dogs eats the young lord, so sad. And after that, I would be there to take the bitch, and make her scream. Boys, we will have a special type of food soon, I hope you guys like bear, I laughed as my dogs howled. Yoram Mormont POV. It has been 4 years since I left, I lost everything because of that woman, my house, my honor, my son. Varys promised me to get the king to give me a royal pardon if I kept an eye on the Targaryens. I don't want to be lord, for what I hear my son is 100 times the lord I could ever hope to be. But I miss my family, I don't want to die with my son hating me. I will be back, I muttered. Back to Ronard. It was finally the day to leave Winterfell. Sansa got on the carriage, after giving her goodbyes to everyone. I decided to have a chat with Robb, nothing serious, I just completely forgot about him during my stay. I had to look for Jon that day and give him a goodbye, too, he was working on the stables that day. After that, I had a talk with Ned Stark, who didn't say it but outright threatened me if I hurt Sansa. He was using the famous scary dad mode. Catelyn did the same, and while I know I can take on both, it still made me shiver, I ain't made out of steel. All right, I nodded as I took my leave with Sansa. Author note, now the time skips will be short like days or weeks at much. The plot is approaching so, you know. I will update more after I get some sleep. Chapter 6, Chapter 6. As we made our way to the ship to go to Bear Island, I noticed that Sansa doesn't have her wolf, in fact, none of the Stark's children had their wolves, which means I brought Sansa with me before Ned Stark beheaded the deserter, and Jon encountered the dead dire wolf with her babies. But knowing the Starks, she would get her dire wolf regardless. I couldn't believe Sansa was coming with me, the actress that played her didn't do her any honor, she was way more beautiful, I still couldn't believe she was to be my wife. Not how I expected to get a wife, but I suppose it was to be expected, I'm in a medieval world, with a medieval set of rules, things that I know or like just don't apply. Like Sansa coming with me to get to know me, and her future lands even thought she might want to stay with her family. I could see it in her eyes, she was sad, and I don't blame her, she met me a week ago, she can't feel completely comfortable with me, a complete stranger that is supposed to be her husband, not only that but she's leaving her family. You're gonna love the place, I smiled, trying to lighten the mood. Sansa smiled faintly and said, I sure will, my lord. Oh come on, don't be like that, think of it as an adventure, I offered as I smiled, and from now on call me Ron, all my friends do it. In my mind a cricket chuckled while saying, what friends? Sansa giggled, all right. Ron. I know you're gonna miss your family, is to be expected, but try to make the best out of it, my lady, I smiled softly at her. Yes, I will miss them, even Arya, don't you ever tell her. But I suppose I will have fun, and please call me Sansa, or I will call you my lord, Sansa smiled. As you wish, Sansa, I nodded. So what do you plan on showing when we arrive? Sansa asked. I wanted to teach you how to shoot and bow, I admitted, why hide my blatantly obvious plan? A bow, but that's... Sansa stammered a bit. Unladylike, PSFFF, don't pay attention to that, if you don't like it after I show you, then I won't try again, but you can't say you don't like it, if you haven't even given it a chance, I chuckled. All right, but only because I know you won't drop the subject. Sansa sighed. Wow, you are getting to know me, I laughed. I have to, Sansa joined the laugh, I am to be your wife. The carriage started to move differently, and until it suddenly stopped, followed by a shout of one of my men, we are under attack. Sansa immediately showed fear, but before her fear escalated, I soothed her, everything will be all right, I'm your knight in shining armor now, remember. Sansa smiled softly as I left the carriage, I know I used a cringy line, but sometimes that's what it takes to calm a storm. Outside I could see that the driver was dead with an arrow on his head. My men were fighting some Northmen. These men were very well equipped and trained. But who in their right mind would try to raid or try to kill a Stark? The growls in the area gave me the answer. It wasn't someone in their right mind, it was Ramsay Bolton. I had only brought 4 men with me. I initially didn't want to bring any, but everyone in the house insisted I needed some protection. And thanks to that, they were all dead. I will make sure to give something to their families after this. Well, hello little bear, I heard a sadist's voice said, making his men laugh. You are. I feigned ignorance. The one thing Ramsay wanted was recognition, and I wasn't going to give it to him. But in the end, even though 4 of my men died, I can't help but smile at this. Ramsay was on my must-kill list. The psychopath just pushed his death ahead of time, and that of his father. I suppose you can't know me, Ramsay said, trying to hide his anger. He didn't have a chance, and it was worse now that he had his dogs with him. Animal are my subjects. So are you gonna stand there and talk all creepy and stuff, or are you gonna do something? I chuckled. A prideful one, I see. I love breaking your kind, Ramsay cackled. Threaten me with a good time, I chuckled. I'm gonna give you one shoot, so hear me well, 'cause I don't like to repeat myself. Come at me with everything you got. Ramsay stared at me with a smile. I'm gonna enjoy breaking you. Ramsay was at this point excited. Sorry, but I'm not into men, and even if I were, psychopaths would be really low on my list. I laughed. One of Ramsay's men approaches the carriage with the intention of taking Sansa, but it ain't going to happen. Taking long claw of my back, I swing my sword, slashing his head off with ease, making the now headless corpse fall into the ground lifeless. You wanna enter the carriage? It will take more than that, I said in a cold tone. One would generally think that killing for the first time would make things harder, but they were scum. I felt no sympathy for their type. They were below animals, below the dirt, and I don't feel anything but disgust for them. Then I will, Ramsay smiled, whistling to his dogs to attack, but none of them moves. Forgot to tell you, but I will be adopting your dogs, I smiled as I ordered the dogs to subdue Ramsay. Ramsay had a shocked expression on his face, wondering how was this happening. The other 11 men he had brought with him shared the same sentiment. With Ramsay on the floor with his dogs pinning him and biting him, I turned to the remaining men. I moved forward, kicking the first man on my path on the face with enough force to send him away. Flying against a tree, I felt on my feet his skull crack under my boot. With a smile I dashed forward, hacking at men, swinging my sword left and right, decapitating each and every one of them, their head go flying in the air, blood splattering everywhere. And now that his men are dead, all I have is Ramsay. Now, what was that about breaking me? I chuckled as I cleaned the blood of my sword. You see, I hate people that break their promises. Ramsay smiled. My father will have your head if you kill me. Oh, he is more than welcome to get it if he proves to be better than me, and frankly, he isn't, I laughed. I'm also quite attached to my head, so you see my conundrum. If you let me go, he might show mercy. Ramsay was desperate. Too bad, I don't care, I smiled as I ordered his and now my dogs to take him away and eat him, and after that they would have to regroup with me on the boat. I would have let them kill him here, but that might scare the crap out of Sansa with the screams and whatnot. With this little inconvenience out of the way, I took the corpses of my man and put the of the back of the carriage as I told Sansa through the door without opening. I will ride the carriage, just enjoy the trip. Your men died, right? Sansa inquired inside the carriage. They died with honor, protecting their future lady, I said. I see. Sansa said with a somewhat shaky voice. Remember what I said, I will protect you, I said as I got in the pilot seat as I ordered the horses to go move. Author note, Ramsay is gone, a bit too early into the show, but thanks to this own stupidity. Sansa is on her way to Bear Island. And Ronard killed his first man and yet felt nothing. Chapter 7. After the incident with Ramsay, I took the frightened Sansa to my ship, as I waited for the dogs to arrive. I decided at the end to command the dogs to leave Ramsay's dead body intact. Why? After a long consideration, I decided to end House Bolton, earlier. How? Well, by lying to the Starks, telling them that Lord Bolton had sent his bastard to kill Sansa. That would, in turn, put the Boltons under a very, very bad light. That way, I would end the most significant threat in the north before the war even started, and if I was lucky, I might get some lands on the way. How long will it take us to get to Bear Island? Sansa asked, stopping my train of thought. Above a couple of hours, I informed her, as I lead the dogs Ramsay had so gracefully given to me. I wondered if without House Bolton would the Starks win the war? Honor was the downfall of Ned Stark, love for Robb Stark, they were surprisingly innocent for this world. I had other beliefs, and firmly agreed with Cersei, when you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. War has no mercy, war has no honor, war has no values, war only has winners, and losers. And I intended to be a winner. I didn't care for the crown, God knows that shitty crown only brings problems, but I would protect what's mine from everyone, whether I liked or not. My house words had stuck with me. Here we stand. I would stand against the lords, the kings, the gods themselves if I had to defend what's mine. The Greyjoys tried to raid the island while you were away, one of my little birds sang. The Krakens destroyed their ships and ate their man. So the Ironborn decided to start raiding again. What an interesting development. Thanks, I'll be sure to give you some extra grain, I petted the bird as I smiled. The Greyjoys were a cancer, rapers, thieves, that's what their house was known for, nothing more. It's a grave mistake to even allow them to exist, to begin with. But I wasn't going to end them, no, I would wait. Killing them would bring me nothing, but if I waited for them to hurt the Starks, and then destroyed them, I would be handsomely rewarded for it. Besides my general disgust for them and their culture, I had nothing against them. Bear Island was impossible to raid or invade, I had Krakens defending my waters, at all times. Well, not entirely impossible to invade, Daenerys in a future would be able to do it. I can control animals, not familiars, and if her dragons end up being familiars, they would just fly to Bear Island. Of all the people in the world, she was among the few that represented a threat to me in the long run. But she was also among the few people I wouldn't mind seeing in the Iron Throne. She was just and fair, her main problem was her vindictiveness. But in her place, who wouldn't want revenge, for what they did to her family? She had, while I didn't like it, every right to hate those who destroyed her family. Like the people in the rebellion had the right to dethrone her family. It was one of those situations nobody was right. It had crossed my mind, to court her many times, and help her regain her throne. It would be beneficial, but it feels like it would be a drag, to be the king of the Seven Kingdoms. Sansa will do. I don't want people plotting to kill me and my kids for all eternity. But it would be delightfully poetic to see my father's face knowing I'm banging the woman he loves. I chuckled at the thought, which earned an odd look from Sansa. Don't mind me, just imagining stuff, I winked at her. Daenerys Targaryen POV. My brother had slowly become a monster. I still remember the days he was sweet and kind. Those days are long gone. I am afraid to wake up the dragon. But one day we will be back in our kingdom, and we will take back what's rightfully ours, with blood and fire. Sansa Stark POV. Ronard Mormont, the man that was to be my husband soon. He was tall, handsome, a good warrior, but he was also smart. Mother said he alone made his house rich. Father trusts his honor, mother admires his mind. He was, by all means, the man any woman would dream of marrying. But he wasn't a prince. I always thought I would marry Prince Joffrey, and be his queen. I suppose that dream is out of reach for me now. At the very least I can say I like Ronard. He is gallant, chivalrous, and swore to protect me, so my duty to my house won't be hard. Mother didn't marry for love, but ended up loving father, so perhaps I will love him one day like I would have loved the prince. But I have noticed something when Ronard touches me. he does as if he shouldn't be touching me when he kisses me, he kisses me as if he shouldn't be kissing me. I know he likes me like mother says the eyes of a man don't lie, but something about me shakes this. I wonder what? Tywin Lannister POV. Varys informed my daughter about the possible betrothal between House Stark and House Mormont. The idiot of a daughter that I have can't see the bigger picture. We have no control over the north. With Myrcella betrothed to the young lord we would have ensured the major economy of the north for us. And with Sansa betrothed to Joffrey, we would have ensured the north absolute loyalty, with the Stark in the south, keeping them at bay should the rise against us. But now, we have nothing. If a war were to break in, the north would have no ties to us. I have to fix this, like always. The brat would marry all right, but not a Stark. Author note. Hey, guys, what up? Working a lot today but I came with the update. So a few things. In the last author note I wanted to put it clear things politically speaking won't go as smooth as you guys would think. Tywin wants Ronard, his money, his loyalty. Sansa likes him, but like the brat she was, she's still infatuated with the idea of a prince she has never seen. On other things, I want to let you guys know our MC is definitely strong, no man can hope to match him. But that doesn't mean he can take on an army alone. Yes, he is powerful, but if he slips during the war coming up, he can still get hurt. But on 1v1, no one can beat him, but there is someone in the north that might give him a challenge. Anyway, enjoy. Chapter 8, Chapter 8. It's been 3 weeks since Sansa arrived at Bear Island. And my birds have already informed me of 3 plots against me. These people in the south need a hobby. Tywin wants to marry me to Myrcella, who, by the way, is even younger than Sansa because he wants to chain me to his house and have Sansa under his careful watch. Littlefinger wants to kill me, for reasons I have yet to comprehend. I know he is obsessed with Catelyn Stark, but Jesus, tone it down. Cersei wants to kill me before her father succeeds in breaking my betrothal. But not all is bad. The Boltons are now an enemy of the north, and in a few days, I will be moving with the other houses to take them down. Lord Stark has called his banners. It didn't take much, all I had to do was inform of the attack, and have my spies reveal some sensitive information for Lord Stark to find that he was plotting with someone in the south to take the north. The Boltons would go extinct quite early, I say. On the good side, Sansa has been warming up to me. I know she likes me, but I ain't the prince she wanted. A date every now and then, a rose here and there, and some elaborated pranks to shake the concept she has of what a lady should be are making her a better person. She even admitted she found archery intriguing. She didn't say she liked it, but she didn't say she hated it, which considering she's been under brainwashing for so long I call this a win. She has the potential to be great, I see it, and I will help her. If she ends up hating some stuff, then it was her choice, not others telling her it was her choice. You are leaving today, right? Sansa inquired. She sounded worried. But it's all right, there ain't a man that can stop me. I smiled. I'll be back. I have another overly elaborated date that will end with us covered in something, dirt or flour, maybe both. Sansa giggled. I'll be waiting then, my lord. It's a date. With that, Sansa left. Are you ready? Maege asked. Maege had 3 daughters, and they were all dangerously powerful. Daisy was tall, taller than me, and Ali was strong like a big man. The she-bear squad. I nodded. Of course, those Bolton will know what happens when you mess with our family, Daisy said, almost growling. I remember the day I arrived with Sansa. The moment they heard about the betrothal, they were about to create a black hole of happiness. That changed when I told them about what Lord Bolton had done. Maege shouted to call my men and to show that old sadistic bastard to not mess with the bears. Yes, she already considered Sansa a bear. Now let's go, I want to bash his head myself, I chuckled. Roose Bolton POV. Ramsay had gone and screwed everything up, and now the Stark had called their banners to end me. At first, I denied giving that order, because I didn't give that order. But soon, my secret letters with my contacts in the south came to Lord Stark's hands. It didn't matter now, all I could do was stand my ground and die with honor fighting. Someone had played me, and quite well I might add. Our blades are sharp, I shouted as my man got ready. Tyrion Lannister POV. Father had summoned me, which by all means was weird, to help him, which was even weirder. To what do I owe this pleasure, Father? I inquired sarcastically. I need to go north, and visit Lord Mormont, Tywin said taking a sip of his cup of wine. I want to know everything about him. Hasn't every spy you have sent been killed, or worse? If Father wanted to kill me, there were certainly better ways to do it. That's why I'm sending you. He can't kill you, Tywin added. He most certainly can. Have you heard how tall it is? He would demolish me, I chuckled, knowing that this would fire him up. Don't play dumb, I have enough of that with your siblings, Tywin said, rubbing his temples. Fine, I will take my leave, I nodded. Is not like I had a choice. Once Father made a decision was final, whether we wanted or not. Tweeting this motherfucker. Unbeknownst to them, a bird sang, before flying away. Cersei POV. Killing a man was easy, if you had enough gold to do it. Ronard Mormont had become the most desirable man, every lord wanted a piece of his money, of his success. But I wasn't going to sell my daughter like a whore, as my father did with me. He would die, before he even had the idea of putting his cock inside my daughter. Contact the faceless man, Varys, I ordered. As you wish, Varys nodded. Caw-caw-caw-yag-height bitches. I will get my corn, unbeknownst to them, a crow was spying on them. Back Ronard Mormont POV. I departed with 3,000 men, and 100 armoured bears to House Bolton. In a few days, I would be there, and I would end them. I left 40% of my army to protect my house, and the dogs the Boltons so kindly gave me to protect Sansa. With the Boltons soon to be out of the picture, my next target would be House Frey, but that could wait for a little. I didn't necessarily have to eliminate all the Freys, no. I only had to kill the old disgusting vomit-provoking nightmare-giver bastard that leads that house. His sons and daughters weren't that bad, and with a bit of money, their loyalty could be bought. But if they proved to be like their father, well, accidents happen, and unfortunately for them, nobody would miss them. Author note, House Bolton is against the wall. Sansa is warming up to Ronard. Cersei wants to kill him. Things are getting crazy. Tweet mother truckers. Chapter 9, Chapter 9. The day to destroy the Boltons had finally arrived. The weather was cold and dry, with winds shaking the trees slightly. My men were ready. Lord Stark would be waiting for us in Dread Fort. House Stark had around 9,000 soldiers, being the most prominent military power in the north. The Boltons were a close second with approximately 7,000 soldiers, followed by the Karstark that had around 6,000 soldiers. In terms of military power, I was the fourth strongest house in the north. Economically speaking, House Mormont was now the first, with my finishing and alcohol business booming, with the lords and the peasants. But even with higher numbers, House Bolton wasn't stronger than me. A strategy often beats quantity. But unfortunately for Lord Bolton, we outnumber and outwitted him. He was going to die, regardless of what he tried of this battle. Deep down, I was a bit uncertain about how this battle would end. I knew victory was certain, but coming unscathed was not. It was true I was a super soldier, with the ability to use any weapon like a master. However, I wasn't immortal. I was still a human, a better and stronger human, but a human nonetheless. Arrows could still hurt me if I failed to dodge them, swords could still cut me if I didn't see them. I had to be careful. Strength does not equal victory. Unfortunately, chance is part of everything. Was I scared? Not really. I had come to peace with the fact I was immortal long time ago, but not being scared didn't mean I was going to be stupid about it. One thing was fighting alone, but leading in the battleground was different. I wasn't just taking care of me, I had to consider the lives of my men, my soldiers, they trusted me too. But I would come victorious. As gallop with my army to the location where Lord Stark is waiting, I see from afar the Stark banners. After a few minutes, I arrived at the war tent. Lord Stark was already discussing with his sons and the other lords what to do. I take he didn't surrender, I said, announcing my presence to them. He will fight to his last breath, Robb growled. He was angry, probably because his sister was targeted. I brought 3,000 men with me, I informed. I'm pretty sure with our numbers we can overwhelm him. While I did believe a good strategy was better than having numbers, I knew Lord Bolton didn't have any strategy. He didn't have time to plan anything, he was just delaying his demise, with the faint hope he will survive long enough to kill the Starks at the very least. Besides, if he had a plan, one of my animal friends would have informed a long time ago, he was doomed. I'm trying to avoid unnecessary bloodshed, but he is leaving me no choice. Ned Stark nodded firmly. House Bolton ends today. The lords inside agreed, me included. Thanks too for protecting my sister, Robb said with a smile. She is to be my wife, and frankly, I would have done it anyway. I smiled back. Are those? Ned Stark trailed off, seeing my armored bears. Yes, they are, I nodded. Our armies were around 14,000 men, ready to strike. This, of course, wasn't the full power of the North. The North had around 50,000 soldiers in total. Lord Stark didn't call all his banners, just a part of them, to destroy House Bolton. I was ordered to go on the first line, with Robb and Jon doing the same from the west. And just like that the battle started. I rushed into the battle in my horse with my armored bears beside me. I would stand my ground and kill as many as I could. As my bears demolished the front line, one man manages to approach me, so I swing my blade at his arm, and it flies across the battlefield. The man screams in pain and falls backwards, just to be killed by a bear. Push! I push forward with my soldiers and begin to push the front line of the Bolton's defenses back. An arrow flies towards me, but as I raise my shield, I notice that the wind changes the trajectory, and the arrow hits my horse in the head, killing it. I jump off the horse, doing a flip in the air, landing with a superhero style. I dashed towards the enemies, cutting the arrows with my sword or shield as I slash the closest enemy and killing him. I continue to slay enemy after enemy, advancing non-stop until I something. The Bolton's men are retreating. Don't let them regroup, I shouted. But then I noticed something else. An unusually large man, around 7 feet tall, carrying a giant axe with one hand and wearing heavy armor, is charging towards Robb. The first that came to my mind was, the mountain, but that can't be right. Doug! I shouted, running towards the Stark. With all my speed I managed to get close to Robb Stark, just in time to push him out of the way. The man has failed his first attack and roared at me, trying to cut me, but with a smile, I dropped into the ground doing a barrel roll, dodging just as the man swings his massive axe and buries into the ground close to me. Holy shit, that was close, I chuckled, standing up with a single jump. Robb didn't have time to thank me, because he was already fighting another guy. The man pulls out his axe and smiles at me. You are going to die. Sorry, you just lost your only chance when you missed that first attack. I was sure now that he wasn't the mountain that rides, but boy, he looked like it from afar. He was around 7 to 8 foot tall and massively big. Big words from a small man, the man roars as he swings the axe down on me. But I caught his axe by the sharp end with my left bare hand, stopping his swing. He was surprised, as he struggled to move the axe to no avail. Sorry, but size doesn't determine the strength of an individual. I then smiled at him as shoved my sword up into his stomach. He coughed blood as he fell backwards with a confused expression of his face, probably wondering how I managed to do it, but I decided to ignore it as I shoved the sword deeper into him. Monster, the man said in pain. but one that's necessary. I smiled as I punched his head with all my strength, no holding back. For the first time in my life, this, in turn, makes my fist go through his head like it was wood, blood splattering everywhere. Safe to say he died instantly as I wince while pulling my hand out of his head. I did not expect this. As I cleaned my hand of his blood, I noticed that Robb and many men were staring at me, some with fear, others with respect. Author note: this is his first battle in Battlefield, so being nervous is to be expected. This is also the first time he goes all go, discovering how strong he really is. Chapter 10. Chapter 10. The battle continued, blood, heads, life, and death everywhere. I didn't have time to analyze the situation. I just rode on my battle bear, charging at the few enemies that were left, killing anything that had Bolton colors on my path. After my display of sheer strength with the giant man, and with us crushing the soldiers outside, the few remaining soldiers outside the castle surrendered. I can't blame them. If your lord is not ready to die with you, then you shouldn't be prepared to die for him. Now we had to destroy his castle, but Lord Bolton was cruel. My little birds sang that he wanted to use the peasants as a shield, a human shield. A shield to keep the Honourable Ned Stark at bay. Lord Bolton knew this was only a mere delay to his unavoidable demise, but every second counted. He may have hoped something would come up, maybe the Lannisters to help, I don't really know, and I don't really care. After the battle, we were once again called to the war tent, where Lord Stark started to go over the situation. The coward is with his tail between his legs, hiding inside his castle. Maege growled, "Coward." I nodded, as I mock in at the plan to infiltrate the castle and kill the bastard. I had better things to do. I say we burn the castle, the rats will come right at us. One of the lords in the table offered, grinning. A bit harsh, but effective, but I hardly doubt Lord Stark would approve of such methods. I know I wouldn't unless it was absolutely necessary, and even then it would be a hard choice. We won't do such a thing. Ned said, sounding offended. We have won. He must understand he can't hold this charade, not for long. I knew he wouldn't go it. He is honourable and just to the point is stupid, but that makes him the only person I don't think would stab me in the back. We will wait, he will die, eventually, Robb added. I sighed as I stared outside the tent for a second, wondering what could I do to push this situation to move faster. Lord Bolton had enough food to survive a couple of months, and his castle was good enough to hold for weeks against us. I had better stuff to do than stay here, waiting for the rats to come out. I would kill rats first. Lord Stark didn't want to kill innocent people, so my plans were limited to non-lethal options for civilians. And then the answer came to me: animals. My control over them was the solution. With the right amount of animals I could stage Lord Bolton's suicide. I could have a bird or a rat put poison inside his drink, and no one would suspect of me. After his death, it was just a matter of time, to wait for his few loyal men discovered his dead body. They would immensely surrender, not having anything to fight for. That's is all. Lord Stark's voice brought me back to reality. This will be over soon, I smiled, giving the lords a foreshadow. My idea was flawless until the moment of truth. The first bird died immediately by poisoning itself. Which brought me to square one. I would use a bird to make him fall from a tall building. This idea didn't require any poison. My little birds could consume by mistake and would be considered an accident or a suicide. I sent 40 ravens to the mission. They were loyal ravens, which only desire was to serve me and get some corn, not necessarily in that order. Raven Corn Elite Force RCEF POV. We were tasked with one mission, to push the human, to make him fall, and we would complete the mission. Corn was our price, and with blood, would earn that corn. Ka, one of my partners gave the sign, the human was on the move. With all our strength me and my 40 brothers crashed against the man, pushing him over the edge of this castle. The deed was complete. Or so we thought. We were in fact wrong and had to kill the other 5 men until we got the right one. We got the right one when we heard some say, "Get out of here, Lord Bolton." After we pushed the man, we left. We had killed 6 bald-looking Bolton look-alike man, but we had earned our corn, and perhaps just perhaps I would get some petting. The bears seem to think they are superior because they get it. Back to Ronard. So, you guys killed 6 people in total. I didn't know what to think of it, but if they succeeded, it was good. Kww, the Raven leader nodded his little head with his feathers puffing up with pride. You want some corn now, do you? I chuckled. Kww, the Raven nodded but approached me, offering me his little feathery head. Oh God, the crow wanted to be petted. This is both adorable and creepy. He wants to be petted for killing 6 people. Fine, but don't tell the other birds, I can't pet all of them. I laughed as I petted the crow. Caw, this is marvelous. I have to tell my brothers and sisters that there is something almost as good as corn. The crow was enjoying the petting. I couldn't help but wonder what he was thinking. As I petted my loyal bird, one of Lord Stark's men entered my tent. Lord Bolton has been found dead. Lord Stark is calling all the Lord to the war tent. Oh, I wonder how. I feigned ignorance as I petted the bird, before giving the man a response. Tell Lord Stark I'll be there in a minute. House Bolton was gone, and in the end, the battle was not what I had expected. My fears, while not unfounded, were not as big. I'll pet you later, buddy. I have a meeting. I smiled at the crow, who nodded eagerly. Lord Stark called us to let us know about Lord Bolton's terrible demise. Some said he killed himself like a coward. Others said it was the old golds delivering justice upon him. Others said it was witchcraft, but in the end they all agreed it was for the best. Now it was time to discuss the winnings. I wanted part of the lands to create new income source for me, and the north. Soon the war would start and Maid would be of great help. But I guess I'll have to wait and see. Robb Stark POV. Lord Bolton had jumped out of his castle, ending his life. My first real battle, and we had won. The soldiers will surrender, and we will take the castle, Father said. I know it's a bit too early, but are you going to appoint anew to the lands or just let them be? Lord Mormont asked. The man had a calculative look on his face. He wanted something out this. I haven't decided yet. Why? Father inquired, probably noticing what I saw too. Well, I wanted to invest, and create new income sources for the north. I will soon reach the land capacity of my lands, so if I could expand it would be most welcomed. Lord Mormont wanted to expand his fortune and the north riches. It was no secret the man was a genius both in business and in battle. I would know I saw him pierce a man's skull with his bare fist. You want all these lands for you, lad? One of the lords growled, clearly upset with Lord Mormont. Oh dear no, I just want a piece so that can add some factories and villages for my workers. I don't care how much land I get, because regardless of it I will make it profitable. Lord Mormont smiled at the lord with a mocking expression. He was saying, in other words, no matter what I get I will make gold out of it, but I don't think the same goes for you. How dare dash? What do you plan to do? Father inquired, shutting up the other lord. Like me, he was curious, and probably interested to invest in a trustworthy Northman to make money for our house. Well, I had some plans to make our crops more reliably stable. We can't depend on the Tyrells forever, Lord Mormont said with a smile. I would love to hear those plans, Father said with conviction. Having a self-sufficient north was his dream. Author note, here it is. Ronard is learning to use his birds for more than information. Also guys, I have a FIC I've been writing on my notes for a while. A gamer in the MCU, but the gamer power would be a bit different. Let me know if you guys would want to see that. So far for that one I have 9 chapters ready, around 14K words. Chapter 11. Chapter 11. After the remaining soldiers in Dreadfort surrendered, and we confirmed our victory, I discussed with Lord Stark what to do with the lands. I wanted a piece of the land, but it didn't necessarily have to be mine. So I proposed to make the lands an industrial area, where people could invest by renting a piece of it for factories, farms, and stuff. With this idea, I would be able to rent a piece of the land to put some farms to start making crops for the north. Lord Stark seemed to like the idea and started to ask how much money we would need to make the idea profitable for the North. My idea was simple. I wanted to create some hydroponic sheds, many of them to make our crops. While the technology in Westeros was quite stagnated, I knew this was possible. Winterfell had a garden with flowers and roses from the south that Catelyn Stark had commissioned to feel more at home. So using the same principle, I would ensure the North didn't depend on the Tyrells for food. This would cost a lot of gold, but money wasn't a problem. So Lord Stark and I made a deal. He would let me build my hydroponic sheds on the land, and I wouldn't have to pay him anything. All he wanted was to be my business partner. He wanted to invest in the idea and make profits out of it. I obliged. It didn't matter much. So how long do you think I'll take? Lord Stark inquired, trying to hide his excitement and failing at it. It was clear as the day he wanted to make the North self-sufficient, and he was quite happy with the prospect of that being close. The construction of all the sheds? Half a year, I smiled. The crops, that depends on what we try first. After that, we discussed how we would distribute the food. I offered to be the one dealing with the business. After all, I was the major investor in the idea. Lord Stark agreed to it. I might need help finding more workers. The more people we have building our sheds, the less time it will take, I said. I will have someone to find you, good reliable workers. Lord Stark nodded in agreement. Well, it was a pleasure doing business with you, but I have things to do in my home, I said, getting ready to leave with my men and bears. I understand, but before you leave, I have a question, Lord Stark said, pointing to my bears. How did you do that? You mean make the wear armor, and fight? I chuckled as he nodded. So it was time to lie. I think every house is connected to their respective sigil, me with my bears, and House Stark with the dire wolves, or maybe I was blessed by the old gods. All I know is that bears love me. I smiled as I thought, not only bears, every animals. Asterisk and ravens. Ravens love you and your corn, asterisk a raven protested in the background. Too bad we don't have a dire wolf to see that, Lord Stark smiled. Hey, don't wave that idea off, who knows, the gods might put some in your future, I smiled, knowing full well, in a year or so, a couple of dire wolves would be found. Maybe, Lord Stark laughed, tell my daughter that Arya misses her, even if she doesn't admit it. I will, sir, I nodded as I finally got the green lights to leave. Ned Stark POV. Lord Mormont had offered me one of my lifelong dreams to make the North rich and self-sufficient without the dishonesty of the South. His ideas were strange but had merit. Sometimes, I forget he is a kid, it feels like I'm speaking with a maester. Hydroponic sheds, his idea to make the North make our own crops, so that we didn't have to pay almost double the price the South pays to the Tyrells. Lord Mormont was truly a mystery. I could see on his eyes he was happy with his position, but I could also see his ambition. Usually, this would make me feel uneasy. Lord Bolton had an ambition. I always knew he wanted my place. Every lord wants something, but all he desires is to make the North advance without losing our ways. He didn't want more power, he wanted to ensure progress. It was unusual to see someone like him without the backstabbing dishonesty of the South. Send a raven to my wife, I need to tell her about this. I couldn't help but smile. The North was getting better and better every day. Balong Greyjoy POV. The Bear Islands, the seat of House Mormont, they used to pay the iron price, we used to raid them, a lot. But now, every time I sent a ship there, all I would get is a bunch of drowned men and a destroyed ship, no survivors, nothing. In the span of 4 years, they became impossible to raid. No matter what I tried, or how I try it, it was impossible. Father, we haven't heard from the last ship we sent to Bear Island, Asha informed me. Another failure. I hissed, how can this be? Now that they are rich, they should be paying the iron price. But we can't get our hands in what belongs by right to us, their money, their woman, especially now that Sansa Stark was there. I could bring the wolf bitch here and teach the Starks a lesson, but I can't. There is something unnatural about this, I can't put my finger on it, but one day we could raid them, and now is like the drowned god himself is stopping us, Asha said with a thoughtful look of her face. Blasphemy! The drowned god would never get in the way of the old way, the iron way. No, we just haven't tried hard enough. I will get what's ours by right, and nothing can stop me. By the mighty and delicious power of corn, we the loyal and incredibly handsome ravens will inform our master of this, I swear it by the corn. Unbeknownst to both of them, a raven was on a window listening to their conversation. Author note, here, ya go, a new chapter. Lord Stark and our MC are investing to make the North a better place. The lands remain technically without a lord, though by default Lord Stark is the lord of them. The Greyjoy/Ironborn are fuming with anger at the prospect of not being able to make the Bear Island pay the iron price. Enjoy! Chapter 12. Chapter 12. It took me a couple of days to get back to Bear Island. I was happy with the results. I had lost around 75 soldiers during this battle, but I had also basically destroyed the one threat the North currently had, not counting Resident Evil ripoffs beyond the wall. The Lannisters, the Freys, and the Tyrells were the most prominent threats remaining on the board of this wicked game for power. While during this battle, my animals had proven to be more useful than I originally thought. They were still animals, and their accuracy on assassinations was less than acceptable. But nonetheless, they proved to be of greater use than I had initially anticipated. The North was safe, for now, so I had time to prepare. With the project of the farms being developed, it was time for me to focus on other areas. I had to prepare for the long night. All I knew about the threat beyond the wall was that they were weak against fire, dragon glass, and Valyrian steel. The fire was easy to acquire and produce. Dragon glass wasn't much of a problem. All I had to do was make a trading deal with Stannis. I was pretty sure he wouldn't reject an agreement like this because for others dragon glass is trash at best. Valyrian steel was a hard, near impossible material to find. It was, in other words, the vibranium of this world. So I would hoard all the dragon glass I could, arming my men with the right weapons to destroy them. My lord, I wanted to talk to you. Sansa entered my solar. She seemed distressed about something. Sure, my lady, what can I do for you today? I said, putting what was doing on standby for the moment. Do you like me? Sansa said fast, as if trying to get over it. She was asking if I liked her? This was an odd situation for me. I was making sure to treat her with the utmost respect and care. Why would she doubt my intentions? I don't understand what brought this on. I sighed. Every time we go out, and I try to initiate contact, you flinch back. If I'm that ugly, father will understand if you decide to break this betrothal, Sansa said with an angry expression. She thought I didn't kiss her that much, because she was ugly. The reality was that she was too young, and I didn't want to force her into anything. I knew she liked me physically, but not beyond that. Oh dear, I laughed, as I poked her forehead. Sansa, you are beautiful. I just don't kiss you that much because you are pretty young, Sansa. It feels wrong. How are we to fall in love if you don't at least try? Sansa complained. I didn't understand why she was mad at me for not being more forward. She didn't love me, we barely knew each other, but regardless of that, it was time to tell half-lies. I like you, and if I don't control that, I might end up with you in bed before our wedding night. I rather wait. It's already hard enough for me to control myself. What I said was partly true. I did found her very alluring. She looked like a woman already, but she was a child, and there were lines I wasn't going to cross. So you like me? Sansa asked, with a flushed expression on her face. I do. The question is, do you like me? For some reason I wanted to hear her say she did. I knew she had an idea of the perfect prince, and that I didn't fit that bill, but I for some reason wanted to hear her say it. I do, now, Sansa smiled, as I gave her a look asking to elaborate on that. when I first saw you, I knew you were handsome, but you were just some small lord. I chuckled. I didn't take offense to it, because it was right. I was a small lord, with a lot of money. Yes, but so far you have shown me nothing but kindness, you even saved my life. Sansa smiled. Perhaps this is what mother told me, that I would eventually start looking at you with fondness. I am doing what any decent human being would do, I smiled. So you want me to be more romantic? Sansa giggled. It would be lovely. And here I thought going on dates was being romantic. Haha, I laughed. What I really want is to get to know you, Sansa said after our laughter died down. If we are to be together for the rest of our life, we need to be friends at least. She did make a point. If she was to be the mother of my children, I had to be at least on a first-name basis with her. Very well, I nodded, accepting her proposition. Great. Sansa smiled. After my chat with Sansa, I went back to my solar to study more possibilities of making money in the north. One of my ideas was starting my own glasswork factory. Mirrors here are as awful as they come. I even considered this at first, so perhaps it's time to push it forward. All right, glasswork, I muttered as I put the idea on my future list to do, wondering what else to do, and then it hit me like a truck. Silk. I was able to control animals. If I acquired silkworms, I could generate silk forever. The worms would make the silk for me, and I would be the sole distributor in Westeros. I knew for a fact everyone bought their silk from Essos. This idea was probably more profitable than my alcohol business. All right, silk is a must-do right now, I chuckled as I wrote the idea down. K-A-A-A-A-A. A faint sound. Something was approaching my solar, but what was it? K-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A-A. It sounds familiar. It's one of my birds. Asterisk K Raven Power Rangers. I'm the Black Raven Ranger. Asterisk one of my ravens entered my solar with an over-the-top dramatic entry. We all are, deadpanned the rest of his flock. So why are you here? I chuckled as I petted the dramatic raven. Asterisk I bring news. Oh, Great Cornbringer, the Ironborn are planning to attack, asterisk the raven exclaimed. So the Greyjoys are tired of failing their raids. It seems it's time for me to acquire another island, and maybe a seat with the big boys, aka the big lords. Author note, new chapter Ye. The Ironborn are moving against our dear MC. Sansa is feeling more and more attached to Ronard. And Ronard might take the seat the Greyjoys occupy. Who knows what will happen? Chapter 13, Chapter 13. Author note, so now the notes will be up here. Soon the prologue arc will end, I think 3 or 5 more chapters to start the canon. But the game will have some players missing. So far for Ronard things have go relatively easy, but he has yet to meet the big players. Anyway, enjoy. The Ironborn would soon experience my wrath, but to make it so I don't get in any political troubles, I need to let them win one thing. They need to think they could make me pay the iron price. If I attacked them out of the blue, I would do nothing but ensure the wrath of the 7 kingdoms, as hypocrite as it sounds. But if they attacked me first, then it would be fair for us to retaliate. After all, that is the iron culture, the iron way, the iron price, but I wasn't going to pay the iron price. There were other ways to start a war. I wasn't going to let them take my family or anything, not even if that won me the fucking throne, but like they said, there are other ways. Sometimes you have to risk something, so I would let them raid me, and then I would destroy them. I still can't understand how they even allowed them to live in the first place. Or how Lord Stark sent his daughter here, effectively putting her in danger. Then again, he let her go to King's Landing. Perhaps Lord Stark must have assumed the Greyjoys would keep themselves from raiding Bear Island with his daughter here because he had Theon, but in reality, all he did was make it, so they want to do it even more. Regardless of that, I had a plan that would give me a motive. Letting them attack me would suffice me as a good enough reason to kill them all, and as a plus would render Theon as a non-threat. Without his house, he would never betray the Starks. Boys, let the Ironborn raid us, I commanded. As you wish, master, the Krakens said. Now with the plan on rails, time to hang out with Sansa before being kidnapped by the Ironborn. I spent a couple of hours with her. She has taken quite the liking to archery, being quite good at it. She still doesn't admit she likes it, but when offered to go, she doesn't say no. I feel I'm getting better, Sansa said with a smile. Now you know how to shoot those who annoy you, I joked. Arya would be the first one to get an arrow then, Sansa laughed. See, I told you, I knew you would like this. Does this makes you any less of a lady? I inquired. No, but... I never said I liked it, Sansa said. You don't need to say it, I know you like it, I teased with a knowing smirk on my face. Why would you practice alone if you didn't? I will not acknowledge that with an answer, Sansa huffed. Ha ha ha, as you wish, my lady, I chuckled. Fine. I don't find it as mind-numbing as I thought it would be. Sansa admitted quietly. Mind-numbing is what the Septa taught you, I said with a cold tone. Women are more than a decoration, more than a bag to carry a child, they are life-givers, and life-takers, they are love and hate, they have endless paths to choose from, but idiotic shit-brained people brainwash them into believing they are nothing but tools. I might have let my emotions control my answer. Sansa was taken back by answer. I didn't think you had such a strong opinion about it. I do, be it a man or a woman, you are the captain of your own destiny, don't let others tell you what or how to live life, I smiled. And so the days passed with me going over my normal lordly duties, and hanging out with Sansa. Bit by bit I was getting to know her, and she was getting to know me, to the point she admitted liking the bow, but finding swords and close combat scary, but this was her answer, not the Septa know her mother. So I bought her a crossbow I had commissioned for her. The weapon could shoot 12 consecutive bolts before needing to recharge. I made this weapon myself, well, the blueprints for it, tinkering with what I remembered from crossbows and stuff. I am by no means an engineer, but I managed to make it with my blacksmith and local engineer. This way, she would be able to take many targets if she ever felt threatened. Ironborn approaching one of my birds sang. I'm afraid I have to leave you, my lady, I smiled. I'll miss you, my lord, Sansa smiled. I ran towards where the raid was going to happen, and then I waited. A couple of hours later, the Ironborn arrived, and the battle started. I rushed hacking at the men left and right, cutting through their flesh like butter. I had to make sure they noticed me. All help, Lord Mormont! One of my men shouted, rushing to aid me. And all the Ironborn turned to see me. Bingo! Come to me! I taunted the Ironborn, among them a woman. If she was who I think she was, this was a jackpot. I parried the first attack, and with a swing of my right sword, I cut the man's throat. Today I was dual-wielding, long claw on my left hand and a standard sword on my right. I continued to dash forward, killing the men left and right, blood splattering everyone, tainting my clothes as I rushed them into oblivion. Holy shit! Retreat! The woman shouted at her men, clearly disturbed by what she was seeing, but before she even had the chance to get into her ship again I lunged my sword into the ground and threw with my now free hand a knife at her hand, nailing her to the ship. Shit! You ain't going anywhere, Greyjoy! I chuckled as I grabbed my sword and continued to kill the Ironborns one by one. Her men tried to protect her, but my forces were overwhelming hers. I alone was overwhelming the Ironborn. It wasn't before long that all her men were dead, either by blood loss or dismemberment, as I stood above the piled-up bodies with a dark grin on my face. Hello, Asha Greyjoy, how wonderful to have you here, I chuckled with a dark undertone, grabbing her face. She tried to punch me, but I stabbed another knife into her free arm. Ah! Fuck you! Asha growled. Feisty, we can't have that now, can we? I smiled, punching her stomach with enough force to make her cough some blood. Fuck! She tried to insult me again, but I cut her off with a kick to her chest. I despised the Ironborn, she encouraged her man to, and sack innocence, for that she wasn't a woman to me, not even a human. Tatata, what would your father think of that language? I scolded her. What are you going to do with me? Asha asked after a minute of silence, probably recovering from the hits. With you nothing, maybe make you feel what all those people you raided felt, but with your house, that's a different matter, I answered, as I ordered my man to take her away. Chapter 14, Chapter 14. Author note, I was in accident, a guy crashed into me and broke one of my legs and arm. I was in a taxi, the driver thank God is okay, with one arm my speed will be, you know. I won't drop though. Truck kun needs more than that to stop me. It wasn't a truck, it was a Civic Honda. I have one of those weird things in my neck, haha xd I feel so bad, anyway enjoy. Since 1 week ago, Asha Greyjoy was on my hands, now, it was time to play the right moves to ensure I wouldn't be targeted politically speaking. I sent a raven to Lord Stark and informed him on the situation, with a few additional things to it. I first added that the Ironborn had purposely tried to attack and capture Sansa. This, of course, was a half-truth, but it would give them the reason for what I was about to do next. Destroying the Greyjoys, and erasing the Iron out of the picture. Lord Stark would, of course, try to find a peaceful resolution. The Greyjoys were a big house, one of the 7 kingdoms, but for me, peace was never an option. At least with them. So with the ships they have brought to raid Bear Island and the ones I had commissioned years ago, I sailed, not before ordering my Krakens to make sure none of them escaped the Iron Island. In my raven I informed Lord Stark this was the last insult I would tolerate from them, trying to hurt my future wife, and my family. Of course, this was a lie. If I wanted I could keep them forever in line without raiding, but I didn't want them alive, they were a waste of space and fresh air. I brought with me the majority of my army. I knew that if I waited, Lord Stark would try to stop me, but not now. I would deal with the political mess later. Let's see how the old Kraken fights, I smiled with satisfaction. Ned Stark POV. A raven from House Mormont arrived bringing terrible news. House Mormont had declared war on the Iron Islands. After the attack they suffered where my daughter found herself in danger, her betrothed decided to put an end to it. Foolish boy, one win in the battle does not make you unstoppable, I need to stop them. Asha Greyjoy POV. The Lord of House Mormont wasn't what I expected, he was cruel, yet disgustingly kind, he had yet to make me suffer for my sins. But now we were on our way to my house, he wanted to bring the fight to us. On the sea, we are unstoppable, he is a good fighter, not a smart one. You will die, you know that. I chuckled, as I stared at him, he would soon pay for what he did to my crew, and me. Good thing, the thoughts of an idiot are often forgotten, he chuckled, he was amused. We have more men, more ships, we are the Ironborn. I growled, trying to break free of my chains, he had me tied like a dog, eating from a bowl. And I don't care soon all of you, will be dead, and I will laugh about, I might even fuck my future wife this day every year, he smiled, he was so confident. Why was he so confident? We outnumbered him, by a lot. Say what you like, asshole, you can't win, I spat at his feet, not being able to aim higher. I see, you are one those that need to see to believe, alright I can respect that, I was like that, and then I died, he chuckled as he took my chain off the wall, and pushed me outside his office. Outside in the ship I could see the water moving furiously, the drown god was angry at him. All I see is our victory, a smile formed in my face, but his faint and devoid of emotion smile made me shiver in fear, fear of the unknown. Why was I feeling so much fear? Look closer, he ordered, and what I saw surprised me. Krakens, many of them, but how? They obey me, how else do you think I made the Bear Islands unraidable? He smiled. Did his crew knew about this? And if they did, how could they be so calm? Fear of the unknown, what a delectable delicacy, they don't know, nobody but me knows, every animal is mine to do as I please, and soon these boys will crush the Greyjoys. Don't you guys have Kraken as your sigil? Quite poetic, he laughed. We were doomed, there is no way we can win in the sea against him, he was vastly superior, one Kraken alone was a problem, but a dozen, this was our end. I won't kill you, I want you and your brother to remember forever that you lost everything because you refused to change. Unfortunately for your people, change is unstoppable, he smiled, patting on the head. This is what he meant, he would take everything from us, using the Iron Way. Tyrion Lannister POV. My welcome on Bear Island was less than warm, people were tense, the Lord wasn't here. May I speak with someone in charge please, I have better things to do than to wait in line to enter, I complained, they kept me on a line to enter the court, I was the son of a lord. Wait or leave dwarf, a guard grumbled. Tyrion Lannister, my apologies, a old and scary woman said, the she-bear, we didn't expect your visit. Yes, that usually happens, I smiled as she let me enter. Inside she served a cup of wine and went straight to the point. What do you want? Maej asked with her gaze on me. Many things, but today I'm here to talk to the Lord, but he seems to be missing, I sighed, just my luck, father wants me to do something and I get obstacles. He is on his way to the Iron Islands, to kill the Ironborn, Maej said with a gruff. The kid wanted a victory, too bad he was going to die, his army is small compared to them, it seems father will have to marry Myrcella to another. Let's hope for the best, I smiled, I may not know the child but he was still a child, and I didn't want him to die, no matter how impossible it was for him to win. Maej said, clearly annoyed by my presence, Lannisters don't do well in the north after all. Raven Elite Corn Forces POV. * We are the elite corn force. We are legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. We are loyal, asterisk. Asterisk ka 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 ka. 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 Asterisk ravens and not ravens were ready to die for their lord and cornbringer, all 1,000 ravens, and those that are not ravens, we are one in this battle. Chapter 15, Chapter 15. Author note, I will have a Patreon where I will have up to 20 chapters ahead, once I have enough chapters ready I will post the link for you guys if anyone is interested. Here I will post 7 to 10 chapters a week and in the Patreon I will have always between 15 to 20 chapters ahead. As right now I have 5, and that's with one arm. By tomorrow I should have more, I will post the Patreon once I have at least 10 chapters ahead of the web novel update. Love y'all. Asha Greyjoy would die, while it was true, I told her she would survive, all I wanted was to give her a taste of her own medicine, like her people I would take all from her. My lord. We are getting close to the Iron Islands, one man entered my chambers inside the ship. Good, soon everything would be over, they are to blame, forcing me to play the game, I never wanted to play the game, but if I have to play it, I will play it like a pro. Asha was practically mute after I showed her one of my abilities, and I can hardly blame her, this was what I intended to show her the meaning of true fear before taking everything. One would think you would be more happy, after all, I am taking what is your with the iron price, isn't that what your culture teaches? I laughed, but even that didn't bring a reaction from her, she just stared at the floor. It seems all her snark and potty mouth died with her spirit. I stood outside my chamber, and I could already see the ships of the Ironborn, the massive navy, but unfortunately for them, I had ordered my army of Krakens to stop anyone from leaving. Making the strongest navy force in Westeros nothing but a fancy decoration. But they still had a big army, over 20,000 men, that was if they had the time to call all their banners, and they didn't, the Greyjoys would fight me mostly alone, and then I would force the other houses in the Iron Islands to submission or oblivion. Or maybe I would kill them all, who knows, all I knew for sure was that the Iron Islands would be mine, whether they liked it or not. My lord. We are to arrive at the coast in 2 hours, a soldier said, approaching me. In 2 hours, and my men, my battle bears and Krakens would unleash their wrath upon the bastards ruling the Iron Islands. Thanks, go back to your post, and tell the men to be ready, I nodded. Soon, very soon, I would have a seat in the game. I didn't even want to play. I didn't want the throne, I didn't want to play this stupid game, but I was forcefully invited, and I am afraid that unlike the Honorable Ned Stark, I was a ruthless player. Sansa Stark POV. He left me again, to fight once again. Why did he have to leave me? I am to be his wife, shouldn't he be with me? I'm afraid he would die. Mother was right, men are stupid when angry. Please keep him safe. I prayed to the gods to help him. Why was I so worried? Was this love? He was undoubtedly charming and caring, playful and funny. He wasn't the prince I had always imagined, but he was everything a woman would dream of. I wanted him to be by my side. Perhaps this was love. All I know is that I wanted him here, be it love or not. Ned Stark POV. I couldn't stop him. He had already sailed to the Iron Islands. We need to go to Bear Island, I informed my men. Ned, love, we have to bring Sansa with us. She is no longer safe there, Cat, my wife said with a worried tone. She is to be his wife, Cat. I refused to think the young lord would die, but that's what we were expecting. She can't marry a dead man. Cat was scared they would kidnap Sansa, and hurt her. She can't, I nodded in agreement. The young lord might have had the reason for his attack, but he didn't think things through. Tywin Lannister POV. I had been informed by Tyrion that Lord Mormont started a war against the Iron Island. My foolish son thought the lord had signed his death sentence. I knew better than to think he would die. A man capable of destroying any spy within his domain, and improving his economy at such a fast pace was no idiot. He knew the risks, but he had a plan to overcome this situation, whatever that was. Maybe I was overestimating his skill, but I usually don't. This kid was more than the eye could see. It seems we might have a new High Lord in the Iron Islands. Soon the game would change. This kid was a dangerous player that I had to take for the benefit of House Lannister, or find a way to kill him. Back to Ronard. My ships were about to arrive. The Ironborn were already waiting for us at the coast. I smiled. Fools. I knew they would do that, so I ordered my Krakens to basically produce waves, powerful waves to knock the men down, killing many of them. My Krakens would break their lines, and I would break what was left. They would continue the assault of waves, drowning, and killing the men by knocking them against the rocks and walls. Well, time to relax, I said with a cup of wine as my Krakens did all the dirty work. What is with these waves? A man asked in disbelief. I can't tell, I chuckled. Ignorance was a blessing sometimes, a blessing that I wanted to keep my men under. Chaos would break if they found out I controlled the animal kingdom. I would probably be hunted for witchcraft. Chapter 16. Chapter 16. Author note, Patreon is coming up. I will post the Patreon link when I have at least 10 to 15 chapters ahead. Anyway, enjoy. The Krakens started doing their job marvelously, breaking their ranks with massive waves of water, killing some of them by crushing them against rocks or other surfaces. If this continued, by the moment I reached the coast, their formation would been broken, completely shattered, and I would be there to cut through their ranks with ease. Bit by bit we're getting closer and closer. After a couple of minutes we finally were on range to leave the ship, so I rallied my men, as I led the attack, shouting the name of my island, the name of my house, wielding long claw in my right hand, and a shield in the left, as I dashed into the broken enemy lines, with my army following close behind, bears, crows, humans, and Krakens all together in one mission, to kill and destroy the Ironborn. Archers normally would be a problem, but I had the most loyal soldiers on the case. My ravens. I had previously ordered my ravens to attack and eliminate as many archers as they could, and obediently that they did. My 1,000 ravens were killing the archers one by one. One raven might be easy to fend off, but 1,000 can kill a man, many men with relative ease. With my men taking over the coast, I dashed to the enemy lines, cutting and hacking at them, left and right as the bodies fell into the ground, dead, leaving behind me a trail of destruction. My Krakens had stopped their wave assault on the coast, or at least on the part of the where my army was fighting, but they still had another mission. They were in charge of keeping anyone from escaping the island. Their job was to ensure no one would leave until I said so. They were trapped in this wretched island until my blade ended their lives bathing in their blood. The Ironborn were slowly but surely retreating, which brought a smile on face as I continued cutting through them like pigs in a slaughterhouse, using my shield as a blunt weapon to bash their heads against any hard surface. Unlike Captain America, I couldn't throw the shield and expect it to bounce back. That shit only works with vibranium, but I could still use a simple steel shield as a weapon. Bastard! An Ironborn growled behind me, trying to pierce me with a spear. In a swift and precise motion, I broke the sharp end of his weapon, and with my shield I hit said sharp end that was still spinning in the air against his throat, effectively killing him with his own weapon. Each swing of my sword meant that another dead man was piling behind me. There was nothing else in the world for me right now but the battlefield, my shield and sword. I had lost count of how many men I had killed so far, but it must have been a lot considering the Ironborn were starting to run away from me, in fear. But I didn't understand why. Why would they fear me? There was no point in being afraid of the inevitable. Not that it helped their cause. I was faster, and I would kill them whether they wanted to fight or not. I didn't care. Those serving the Greyjoys would die, and serve as an example to not mess with the bears. My battle bears were beside me, backing me up, destroying the Ironborn, advancing as if there was no opposition, with each of them taking at least 10 soldiers at the same time, and my men being aided by them. We were winning by a huge margin. I smiled as I continued with my slaughter, killing everything in my way, regardless of its gender. All it mattered was, they served the wrong house. Was this cruel? Perhaps. But I wouldn't stop until the old Kraken was at my feet, and my sword at his neck. It took roughly 6 hours to complete control over the coast. We killed around 2,000 men, but this victory was not without loss. I had lost around 400 capable in this fight and 20 battle bears in this fight, but in comparison our losses were minimal. The Greyjoys had around 5,000 soldiers, without their banners, and had lost a big chunk of their army, and the best part was, they couldn't ask for help. Any raven that had a message would come to me, their new master. My ravens would ensure the message was delivered to me, with the raven joining my ranks, or dying should they refuse. 100 men came to surrender, my lord. This was odd. Well, not really. The Ironborn were cowards that once they started to feel the tide was against them they would surrender. I stood outside my tent, to find the men kneeling in the ground. I couldn't kill those who had surrendered, but I could force them to take the black, or free them into the sea. What do you want? I inquired in a cold and rough tone, denoting I would have no mercy. We surrender. The leader of the group said, somewhat shaking. Killing them was easy, but it would set a bad precedent of me in the north. You'll take the black, or my blade, pick your poison. I had to offer them the black. It was customary for these situations. And like I expected, they all decided to take the black. Chain them to the ground and kill them should they try anything funny. I would keep them close to the sea where I could drown them if they decided to free themselves and try to kill me. With this ordeal over, I walked back into my tent to plan my strategy. So far I had ordered my ravens to kill any scout, archers, or men they could find outside the castle. 1,000 ravens, one was a bother, but 1,000 fighting together was quite effective. Dying by 1,000 pecks was truly a gruesome and painful death, but it was effective nonetheless. While they weren't exactly accurate for assassination missions, they were super useful for these types of scenarios. They were basically piranhas in the sky. With them clearing the area alongside my bears, I had quite the special task force. As for now, they were the only ones outside killing anything and anyone they saw with a weapon. Asterisk status update. We have killed 182 men and we have lost 10 brothers. A raven flew into my tent, his beak and wings covered in traces of blood. Good, continue with the mission, we will avenge your brothers, do not worry, I smiled, petting the little killing machine, who ruffled his feather in happiness. Balong Greyjoy POV. The brat had come to us, and was winning, he was but a lad that still reek of his mother's milk, how could we be losing? My men were getting slaughtered, none of my banners were answering my call for help, at this rate in a couple of days the little bear would make us pay the iron price. The ultimate iron price. Send more ravens. I growled, after this I would teach my banners what happens when you don't obey your king. Send all the ravens, all 100 of them, I want my banners here. And I want that bastard's head on my solar now. As you wish. One of my men nodded as he ran to do as I asked, sending all my ravens to all my allies, perhaps this way they would answer my call. Chapter 17, Patreon. So after a bunch of messages I decided to publish my Patreon with what I have. I will update the Patreon daily with 2 to 3 chapters. As of now the Patreon is 4 chapters ahead, later I should add 1 or 2 more, I haven't had the time to write much today with the hospital and stuff anyway. https://www.patreon.com/cornbringer. Thanks in advance for all the support. The updates here will continue to be 1 chap daily, that will increase when I can start using both arms, and I can update both the Patreon and here faster. Enjoy! Chapter 18, Chapter 17. Author note. Patreon is here. So far I have 5 chapters ahead, but I'm updating it twice a day at a minimum. So if you guys want to check out my chapters before I publish, please feel free to check it. https://www.patreon.com/cornbringer, fan_landing equals true. Have in mind that for the moment my writing speed has been cut to half with one arm broken, but that ain't stopping me. After chapter 20 chapters are larger, the prologue aka the things before the first book end on chapter 25. Anyway, enjoy. Balon had given me 100 loyal ravens to serve me, poor man, if only he knew that every time he tries to send a message, a cry for help, he is only making me stronger. During the first few days in the Iron Islands, I stabilized a camp in the coast, making sure to kill all opposition, with one kraken nearby to defend it should any trying to sail away. So after quite a significant amount of planning it was time to move forward, it was time to claim the Salt Throne for me, and I would take immense satisfaction in doing so. It would be the ultimate poetic justice for what his people had done, they took everything from others, and now I would take everything from them. My Raven squad were still on their rampage, killing man by man, they really have earned their corn by this point, the screams of pain filling and thundering inside the island, bringing terror and despair to my enemies and allies alike, mostly because my allies didn't know those screams were a product of my own making. It was time to take what was mine. In the end I had resolved to not kill all the Ironborn in the Iron Islands, just the Greyjoys, the ruling house and those who follow them, but I would allow the other houses to kneel and pledge their life to me, or die. I knew this blind loyalty I wanted from them was not easy to obtain, so I had a plan to make them follow me. When faced against crazy psychopaths that kill, steal and rape for a living, that also happen to be incredibly religious, there is only one option: make them believe you are the chosen one by their god. And with my Krakens I would make them believe their god chose me. If I played my cards correctly and they were as stupid as I thought, I would get around 15,000 soldiers, loyal ones. There was always the case they didn't fall in line or didn't stay loyal, in that case killing them would be easy. In the sea I was a force to be reckoned with, my Krakens made me the best in this battle environment, so if they ever betrayed me, I would drown their men and families under my thumb. The castle is right ahead, my lord. I see, start your formation, I ordered them. My bears divided between my 3 squadrons, attacking from all directions making a triangle, while thinning my army, would usually be bad, with this I would. Let's show these Krakens why you don't mess with the bears. I shouted, rallying my men up. My men shouted in agreement. Morale was high thanks to how much we were crushing them. Ned Stark POV. I arrived at Bear Island with Cat and some of my men. We wanted to take Sansa with us, in case the worst came to happen, but we found a problem. I apologize, Father, but I won't leave. Sansa didn't want to leave, she wanted to stay. Sansa, we are doing this for your own good. Cat countered angrily, you are not married yet, this is not up for discussion. I know he will come back. Sansa said, trailing off, was my little she-wolf in love? The last raven we got from him said they took control over the coast, Ma-Edge offered, in disbelief, like her I couldn't understand how he was winning. He is winning? Cat inquired, as if she was just lied to. It seems, Ma-Edge nodded. Sansa, if something were to happen to him, he would want for you to be safe, I said. I honestly believed he would. He started this war with the Greyjoys for her. Sansa, this is not up for discussion, you will come. Cat added she was worried about what would happen once the young bear died. Fine, can you keep me posted? Sansa agreed, glaring at Cat. I never saw her this challenging, as she asked the she-bear to keep her up to date. We could have forced her to come with us, she was still my daughter, my responsibility, but I didn't want her to resent me should he die. I didn't expect she would fall for him so soon. While it makes me happy, this situation makes it hard, especially since Cat was to break the engagement whether he survives or not. She doesn't consider him a good match anymore. Back to Ronard POV, a week later. Pike was the stronghold and seat of House Greyjoy, which was happened to be located on an island of the same name, quite creative if you ask me. It took quite a while to reach within their walls and enter the castle. After all, the castle is an ancient stronghold with outstanding defenses. But anything can be broken with enough force. So far, I had taken control of one of the towers that make the castle, but the coward delayed his imminent defeat by cutting my path to the other tower, and for this, he would die slowly and painfully. The towers were connected by swaying rope bridges, and the old bastard cut them, making it nearly impossible to cross. So I had to improvise. I put some of my men to make wood bridges with the wood we had collected in the first tower to cross the breach, while my raven swarm killed any men stepping out to shoot arrows at us. Asterisk message. Lady Stark wants to break the engagement, Lord Stark does not. Asterisk one of my ravens in Winterfell came, so it seems they took Sansa. Taking a deep breath, I took a piece of paper and wrote. Lord and Lady Stark, I must apologize if I had by any means make your life and those around me go in danger. It has come to my attention that Sansa is no longer in Bear Island. While I understand why you took her, I must ask you to not break my betrothal with her. I know what I did may seem a bit reckless, but it was a long time coming, and I will come back victorious, so rest assured I will win, and I will honor my word to protect and care Sansa and be a good husband like I know you will. Honor yours by uniting our families. Lord Mormont. Well, with that, and appealing to his idiotic honor side, he would keep his word and would put a stop to his wife. Seriously, that woman is despicable. Sir, we have one of the bridges ready. One of my men entered the room. Be sure to check it, it needs to be able to withstand many bears and men. If I fall, I will climb back just to kill you, I joked, but the poor guy took it to heart and ran away to test the bridge. Oh yeah, as a lord everything I said is in a literal sense, I chuckled. If my calculations were corrected, the old Kraken had around 500 men inside the other tower. I still had above 60% of my army, including my bears and ravens. The bridge is solid, the bears are walking back and forth, the same man said again. Very well, I will go first, I nodded as I approached where the bridge should be. The breach between towers was large, and the fall was big. I still haven't put the bridge, my lord, the man said. I don't need it, but be sure to put it, I smiled as I took off running at full speed, using all my super soldier juice to jump to the other side, landing on one knee on the other side. Holy! The man said in awe. Stop staring at me and put on the damn bridge. I commanded as I entered the other tower. The man nodded. Chapter 19, Chapter 18. Author note, what up guys? Here with another update. If you want to see my unreleased chapters, go my Patreon and enjoy. https://www.patreon.com/cornbringer, fan_landing equals true. Anyway, enjoy. The men inside the other tower were scattered, but it didn't matter much. I was on an assassination mission, the old Kraken would be mine, and I would end this, once and for all. Someone go dash, they never learn. Shouting before getting their weapon out is a bad idea. I continued running through the castle, killing men and avoiding large groups that could have a chance to overwhelm me as I advanced to Bolton's chambers. In front of the door leading to the hallway that led to the man I wanted to kill, there were a couple of guards, defending the old rat. There was no avoiding this, so I stood out of the shadows and whistled at them, getting their attention. So you guys wanna die now, or when my army crosses to this tower? I asked, expecting my men to be getting over here anytime soon. My question wasn't as humorous to them as it was for me, and soon enough, I had every single one of them attacking me. I cut the first man's throat with a long claw while I brutally bashed another man's head against the wall, splattering his brain matter all over the wall. I jumped doing a flip in the air, dodging a spear going for heart, and decapitated the guy. Killing the 3 guards, defending the door. You know, I think this world has seriously messed me up, I chuckled. Killing was just a part of my life these days, I was so numb to this shit. I opened the door leading to the hallway that would guide me to the old bastard in the castle. On the other side, I immediately noticed there were around a dozen soldiers patrolling a single entrance. If my raven were correct, the old bastard was there, so with nothing else to do, I charged out into them. Killing the fist Ironborn in my way before he could even react, stabbing him in the heart with long claw. He yelled out in pain, coughing blood as he fell to the floor dead. Bastard! An angry Ironborn tries to attack me. But I dodged the attack, taking a single step to the side, and with one quick swing of my blade, I severed his head effortlessly from his body, splattering his blood on the castle walls. The next 3 soldiers rushed to attack me, but I ducked under the first attack, dodging it and pushed my sword through his neck, killing him. I blocked the next attack with my shield, and using the momentum I bashed the next man head to the wall with enough force to pop it like a water balloon. With him done for, I turned to kill the last of the guy in front of me, but a crossbow bolt flies into the back of my leg, stopping me, making me flinch in mild pain. I grunt in pain as I turn around to see the future dead guy with a crossbow reloading his weapon. Taking this chance, the Ironborn close to me tried to attack me with his spear, but even with a crossbow bolt on my leg, I outmaneuver him, disarming him and killing him with his own weapon. The guy with the crossbow started to panic, trying to load his weapon as fast as he could while I pulled the spear out of his comrade's dead body and threw the spear at him. Wait! He was probably trying to surrender as if I was going to let him leave, but regardless of that, the spear impaled his chest before he could even finish his last words. Soon after, he dropped his crossbow and died. Motherfucker, that hurt, I grunted as I took the bolt out. That's gonna be an inconvenience for about 2 hours. I immediately turned my attention to the shaking remaining soldiers, who were too afraid to approach. I dashed towards the remaining Ironborn protecting the old Kraken and cut one of them in the throat. He falls to the floor dead, not wanting to waste any more time. I push up, killing 2 more before they can even react. Not wanting to lose any more time, I spun around using the momentum to swing my blade and cut through all of them, decapitating 5 soldiers in one motion. I pull my sword out the last man's neck, as the last Iron tries to kill me, but I cut his arm and shoved my sword through his mouth, piercing his skull in the process. Well, the wound didn't make me any less efficient, I said, stretching my leg, but I need to be more careful, one of these days the bolt will go a little bit higher. Finally, after all this shit, there I was in front of the door where the Salt Throne was patiently waiting for me. With a sigh, I kicked the door wide open, as I entered. Hello! I entered the throne room, trying to make an epic yet threatening entrance, but I was greeted by Bolton shooting his crossbow at me. I simply dodged the bolts as I approached him. Do you really think that's going to work? If so, this is sad. Fucking brat! Bolton shouted, grabbing his sword, and running towards me, or trying to. He was struggling to move fast. I bashed my shield against his arm, breaking it and making him drop his blade. You lost, I sighed. My men should be entering the tower right now, killing your remaining forces. I won. Fuck dash Bolton tried to insult me, but I slapped him so hard he lost half of his teeth. I guess this is where Asha gets her potty mouth, I chuckled as I pulled out Longclaw. Normally, I would love to talk more, but I have better things than to waste my time with a piece of shit, so goodbye, I said as I stabbed him in the kidney area, to ensure his last moments to be as painful as possible. Avrg! Bolton shouted in agony, as I left him there, walking to his throne, sitting, waiting for my men to arrive. It took my men roughly 5 hours to arrive at the Salt Throne, where by that moment, Bolton had already died. We have killed every soldier in the castle, my lord, one of my men said. Good, stabilize the bridges connecting the towers and bring Asha, I ordered them. Asterisk we have eliminated all the scouts and archers. What else do you need, O great Cornbringer? Asterisk a raven flew into my lap, eyeing curiously. One last mission, I want every you guys to deliver some messages, to every house in the Iron Islands. It's time to take control of this shitty place, I smiled petting the raven. Chapter 20, Chapter 19. Author note, what up guys? Here with another update. If you want to read ahead, be sure to check my Patreon. I am 7 chapters ahead of the web novel update, currently in chapter 26. https://www.patreon.com/cornbringer. Enjoy! After taking complete control of Pike and its citizens, avoiding as much havoc and chaos as possible, I decided to send one raven to each house in the Iron Islands, with a single message. Come to Pike, and kneel to your new lord, for I have been chosen by the drowned god himself to change the old ways. Come and see how I can't be drowned and confirm by claims. I also sent a raven to my house and Lord Stark, informing them about my victory. Dear Aunt, I sent this message to inform you, I have won, I have taken control over Pike, and as you read this, I'm taking control of the Iron Islands as a whole. There will be no more raiding, no more iron price, for now the bears rule over the Krakens, with love. Lord Mormont. Lord and Lady Stark, I happily inform you that the Iron Islands are mine. I have taken control over Pike, and as you read, the lords of the Iron Islands are coming to pledge their loyalty and banners to me. Once this all over, I will go to Winterfell and pick up Sansa. I will ensure there is no more raiding or anything of the sort. I will eliminate the old ways the Ironborn believe in. May our families be united through blood, love, and honor. Lord Mormont. I knew I was playing dirty by using his honor to keep our betrothal, but considering they are the only house I mildly trust and I didn't want Sansa to go over all the shit she went in the series, I had to do it. Now it was time to wait. I was sure the lords in the Iron Islands would come with their army to take me down, but that was part of the plan. I would prove to them that their so-called god chose me. How? By having a kraken raise me above the sea. This would make them kneel in admiration or shit their pants, one of the two. You won, just let me leave and I won't bother you ever again, Asha said weakly. I did say I was going to let you live, but only long enough for you to understand how fucked you are. I smiled as I cut her chains. Take a boat and leave. This was my last act. I would take everything from her, the last thing a human loses hope. I led her to the coast where she took a boat and sailed. For a moment she thought she had escaped, for a moment she felt relieved, for a moment she felt hope. That was until a kraken pulled her deep into the sea, eating her. I have stolen everything from you, your house, your dignity, your hope, I chuckled as I walked back to the castle. 1 month later. It took 1 month for all the Iron Lords to come, their ships and armies approaching, threatening to end my life. Everything was going as planned. I would use their fate to my advantage. I was in the sea, on a ship alone waiting to meet them alone, with my Krakens close by. Just when they were close enough, just when I was sure they all could see me, I jumped into the water as the Kraken destroyed my ship. In a dramatic setting, the Ironborn started to panic. I smiled as I waited underwater, and just when I was sure they felt how fucked they were, I ordered the Kraken to rise me above the water and their ships gently, as I stood on one of his tentacles. It was time for the religious scam of the century. I am the chosen one, the drowned god chose me to lead the Ironborn. Who here doubts of this? I shouted as the Ironborn stared at me in disbelief. Eventually they started chanting in approval, as they knelt before me. I had succeeded in my mission, the Iron Islands were mine. I had lost a lot men, but I had won 15,000 soldiers and the greatest navy in Westeros. With a smile of satisfaction on my face, I ordered the Kraken to gently put me on one of my newly acquired ships. Let's go to Pike, I ordered, and the Ironborn obeyed. Their anger had turned into fear and fear into admiration, and soon that would turn into loyalty. 1 month later. The coronation to the Salt Throne was not what I saw on TV or the books. Apparently they skipped various considering the so-called drowning god himself chose me. It took a while to convince them their old ways were done for. I was close many times just to kill them, be over with this. But I decided to be more rational. After a while, I made them understand that with my guidance we could be rich without stealing, without raiding. The new rules of the Iron Island were clear. They were basically the antithesis of their old ways. Let me make one thing clear, my lords, if any of you break my rules, I will kill your family, friends, and anyone serving under you. Don't think you can hide things from me. I will know, and I will make you pay. Is that clear? I asked every lord in the room with a cold tone. The lords nodded, some in fear, other in admiration, because to some I was some kind of deity now, but mostly fear. Good, now leave. I will send ravens with my orders to stabilize the economy here. For the moment we will focus on fishing. The drowned god has blessed our seas, so go, I said, knowing full well my Krakens would keep an eye of them and help the fish, but if they step out of line they would die. I left a pair of Krakens per island to ensure I had a way to kill them should they rebel. Tywin Lannister POV. Like I expected, the young lord won, and was now on his way to become the new High Lord of the Iron Islands. Tyrion would only ruin this. I needed to make him our ally, myself. Set a carriage, I am to leave to the north in a fortnight, I ordered a servant. Cersei POV. The young lord of House Mormont had won the Salt Throne, to protect his future wife. Men are pathetic, anything with tits will drive them to war. He will by now be a high lord, Jaime smiled, pouring me a cup of wine. Of thieves, and rapers, what an accomplishment, I smiled, kissing my brother, as he stripped me. Theon Greyjoy. I had lost it all, my family, my birthright, everything. I lost everything to that bastard. He took what was mine, he sat in my throne, he will pay for this. I will kill him. Chapter 21, Chapter 20. Author note, this is Chapter 20 yet. If you wanna read ahead, go to my Patreon where you can read as of now up to 7 chapters ahead. https://www.patreon.com/cornbringer. Anyway, enjoy. In the end I had to stay another month in the Iron Islands before leaving to Winterfell. I had to ensure all the Iron Islands started fishing, and collecting pears, as I commissioned alcohol factories to the islands. After everything was ready, with the factories being designed and the Ironborn fishing, I took off with some of my men to Winterfell. I left the majority of my men behind to ensure they fixed some stuff in the castle. As I sailed, I couldn't help but wonder if I should take Pike as my main seat, or keep it on Bear Island. We'll be in Winterfell in a fortnight, my lord, one of the Ironborn said, as we took off. Perfect, I nodded as I went to my cabin to sleep, something I haven't done properly in a while. Catelyn Stark POV. Ned refused to break the betrothal. Why couldn't he see what I saw? Ronard Mormont was reckless, and didn't think things through. He might have won the war against the Iron Islands, but what if he starts another war brings our end? Ned, I beg you, please, consider this. I pleaded. Cat, I know what you feel, but I gave my word, he did what he did to protect Sansa, and I think Sansa loves him, I can't break her heart, Ned said, standing his ground. Theon is the rightful heir of the Iron Islands, he won't stand by and let him take it, I said as I took my leave. He can't take anything, without men, Ned muttered as he sighed. Sansa Stark POV. Ronard had won, it's been months since I last saw him, and I can't help but feel happy he won, that he is safe, that he is coming back to me. Maybe I am in love? I don't know. But the thought of him dying was painful, I prayed to the gods he would survive, I prayed for his victory. I miss our dates, the way he laughs, how carefree he is, how charming his smile is. I miss kissing him, I simply miss him. 2 weeks later, Ronard Mormont POV. I was finally seeing the gates of Winterfell from afar. 2 weeks of sea and months of fight and war were really taxing, but I had won, and that's all it mattered. I was now the High Lord of the Iron Islands and the Bear Island, that was loyal to House Stark. Though I knew many lords in the north would fear this new political power I had acquired, and would want to marry me to the north, to ensure my loyalty. If Lord Stark broke my betrothal it would be a political suicide, I was the biggest taxable income in the north, and now I was a military threat. But even if he didn't care about that, his honor would bound him to keep my betrothal, because I had kept my word, I had made Sansa as happy as I could and I had protected her. We are here my lord, one of my newly acquired men said, snapping me out of my reverie. Inside I was greeted by Lord Stark and his children once again. Sansa this time was smiling at me, as if eager to run out of her family formation and hug me. That was new. Lord Stark, I greeted, but unlike last time I was here I didn't bow to him. Lord Mormont, Lord Stark offered me a handshake. My lady, I approached Sansa kissing her hand. My lord, I prayed to the gods you would come back to me, Sansa said with a sweet smile, raising an army of red flags. Perhaps it was a bad idea to make everyone believe I started the war for her, I didn't expect her to fall for me this fast. Then your prayers have been answered, I smiled back, putting a mental note to deal with this later. Lady Stark, I greeted, and if eyes could kill, she would have my head on a spear. Lord Mormont, Catelyn Stark practically hissed. I eyed her carefully for a minute, wondering what the hell was her problem, but I stopped my quest for an answer when I realized I don't care. Robb, good to see you, I smiled, noticing he had conflicting feelings about me. For one he was happy, and at the same time mad I took what was supposed to belong to his friend Theon. I'm glad you came back, Robb said with a serious look. May we speak in private, Lord Mormont? Lord Stark requested. As you wish, I nodded, following him to his solar. Inside of his solar, Lord Stark sighed as he served 2 cups of rum and sighed. Do you have any idea how many problems you caused? Ned Stark, rubbing his temples. I do, but I assure you, the list of problems I took care of is infinitely bigger than the one I generated, I nodded. My wife wants to break the betrothal, Ned Stark admitted. I got that vibe when she stabbed me with her eyes, quite a dangerous glare she has, I chuckled. To my surprise this made Ned Stark laugh. She can do that. I did what had to be done, they were a disease spreading and destroying everything in their way, I said with a cold tone. I had taken control over the disease, and I will cure it, no more old way. Ned Stark eyed me curiously before he sighed, perhaps it was for the best. It was, I nodded, without the Ironborn doing what they used to do, I would ensure a safer north as a whole, and I would also erase a threat in the map. Theon Greyjoy POV. The man that destroyed my life was here, the man that took everything from me was here, this was my chance, he would die. He would pay the iron price, I would make sure of it. I would avenge my father and sister, and all my fallen brothers. I would claim his head, and the Salt Throne as it was my right. Theon, think this through. Robb said with a worried look. He will die by my sword, Robb, one way or another, but he will die today. I growled as I put on my armor, and got ready to challenge the bastard to a duel. Unbeknownst to them, a raven was carefully listening to their conversation and flew to warn his master, "Caw caw caw yug hi you bitches." Chapter 22, Chapter 21. Author note, here ya go. If you wanna support my endeavors and see what I have ahead, go to my Patreon. I have 7 chapters ahead of this. As of now, we are in chapter 28. https://www.patreon.com/cornbringer. Anyway, enjoy. It seemed that for now my betrothal was safe, but now I had to deal with a girl in love. I wasn't so sure how to deal with the conundrum. While she looked like a woman, she was a girl, and what mattered for me. But I suppose everything ended the way it was meant to be. "John, how have you been?" I inquired. Right now, John was working on the stables, cleaning the horses and brushing their manes. "I've been good, Lord Mormont," John smiled, trying to be polite. For him I was a lord, and he was a bastard. Social stigmas in this world are quite troublesome. "Just call me Ronard or Ron," I offered, cutting him off when I saw he was about to refuse. "Consider that my one lordly order for you, shall we?" "I suppose," John smiled. "Where are you, bastard?" Theon Greyjoy shouted, his tone full of anger and hate. "That much I could tell." "I suppose that's for me. I'll leave you to your work, and by the way, should you ever need employment, be sure to reach me out." I smiled as I started to walk out of the stable. It seemed Theon had exploded earlier than I anticipated. "Don't hide!" Theon shouted, and many people started to gather close to him to see the show he was putting. "I'm gonna take a wild guess and say you are looking for me." I chuckled, walking towards him. "I will kill you," Theon growled with a sword in hand. "Or disappoint me, go ahead, flip that coin," I taunted him. Theon rushed towards me, sword in hand, and started to hack his blade wildly, as I dodged his attacks with my hands on my back, purposely mocking him. "Stop running!" Theon growled, angry at not being able to hit me. "Stand and fight like a man." That's not how fighting works. You attack, I dodge. Simple," I laughed, as I dodged another incoming attack, ducking under his swing. "Ah!" Theon started to shout, losing all coordination, swinging his blade like a child throwing a tantrum. "You are more likely to hit yourself than me if you keep going like that," I smirked at him, which made him shout even louder. "Theon, stop this madness!" Lord Stark arrived, shouting angrily. "Don't worry, Lord Stark, it's not like he can do much. Just let the toddler throw his tantrum, and then after he tires himself out he can take a nap to chill things out." I turned to full attention to Lord Stark, as I continued to dodge Theon's assault. "You think you have won everything, don't you?" Theon said, panting. "You may have won my lands, this battle, and everything else, but I have won something you haven't." "And what is that?" "A pity contest." I chuckled, but mildly interested to see where he was going with this. "Sansa's cunt," Theon smirked, and gasps could be heard in the crowd. "While you took my lands, I made her a dash." I didn't know what happened next, but something snapped inside of me. Was it anger? Yes. Was it for what he said? Not really. I knew he was lying, but anger blinded my mind, and in the split of a second, I was in front of Theon, swinging at him with my bare fist, hitting him in the jaw with a powerful punch. I could feel its jaw shatter under my fist as tooths flew out of it. Not letting Theon recover, I grabbed him by his right arm, throwing him into the air. Then I jumped up, delivering a powerful kick to his back and feeling his spine shatter into 1,000 pieces. Theon slammed into the ground with a heavy thud, screaming in pure pain, but it wasn't enough. I wanted more. I dashed towards the screaming bastard and punched in the face, feeling his nose shatter. I punched him again, tearing off part of his cheek. I continued to punch, with each hit being even harder than the last one, eventually making one of his eyes burst. Theon tried with all his might to cover up his face with his arms, but with a pair of powerful blows, I broke his arms, bending them beyond recognition. With nothing stopping me now, I punched him again and again and again, shattering what was left of his jaw, destroying the remaining teeth he had, crushing and deforming his lips. Theon was barely recognizable at this point, no longer looking human-like, but I don't care, I want him to suffer more, so I continue punching, tearing pieces of its flesh off with each punch. That was until I feel someone holding my fist softly. "That's enough please," he lied. Sansa said, holding my blood-covered fist with concern in her eyes, with her delicate hands covered in blood. Sorry you had to see that, I didn't love her, so why did I react so violently when he used such an obvious taunt, why I felt the need to torture him so much. I could have ended this in a single attack, if death was my goal. I know it's your right to kill him, but please let me punish him, he not only insulted your honor but ours, Lord Stark requested as I stood up. Do as you please, but if I ever see him again, I will kill him, I sighed as I turned to the deformed Theon on the ground, if I didn't do it already. You won't see him again, Lord Stark said grimly. The Maester informed Theon will most likely die, and if he by miracle survived would be a quadriplegic blind cripple. Apparently the damage I had delivered was beyond any modern medicine to repair. I was holding back, mostly because I wanted him to suffer, so I held back, I wanted to see his life fade as I punched him. *HRRMMM. Anger during that fight you let control, powerful inside of you, the dark side of the corn I feel. *A Raven said as he walked towards me. Great, just what I needed, a Raven Yoda, go away before Disney sues me, I chuckled. HRMMM, come back, I will, for help I bring, the Raven said as he flew away. But Raven Yoda was right, I let something so obviously fake fire up my emotions, and the worst part was, I was not even in love with Sansa. Yes, it would have angered me if she slept with another while I was fighting, but not to the point of going full batshit crazy. Knock knock. It's me, Sansa, can I come in? I heard Sansa request through the door. Sure, come in, I sighed. Sansa entered the room with a picnic kit on her hands and a soft smile. You still owe me a date, how about we have an inside picnic? Sansa inquired, smiling as if she didn't see me beat to a pulp someone she had known longer than me. Fine, that sounds lovely actually, I nodded as I sat on the floor of my room, seeing Sansa set up the picnic. Extra cheese on your sandwich, right? Sansa inquired with a smile. Yeah, go easy on the tomatoes, I nodded. All right. Here you go, Sansa gave me my double cheese meat sub, as she turned to make hers. So, how you've been? I asked, taking a bite of my sub. I've been great, well. Now that you are here, being apart made me realize that. Sansa flushed in a cute pink tone as she stared at me, that I love you. That might be a bit of a stretch, right? I mean, I know I'm charming, but... I coughed. You are everything I have ever dreamed in man, I can only hope I am everything you want in a woman, Sansa said without hesitation. I sighed, while I would have wanted her to fall for me on a later date, this was an inescapable event that would come one day, I wanted her to love me so she would be safe from all the shit she went through in the original timeline. But I wasn't mentally ready to speak with an 11/almost 12-year-old girl above love, so time to change the subject. Did Arya find out about your new hobbies? I chuckled. She did. I never saw her more happy and friendly with me, and now uses me as an excuse to learn. Mother was furious, saying a lady does not partake in such things. Sansa laughed. I imagined as much, and what did you tell her? I chuckled. Whatever a lady partakes in, be it cooking or sword fighting, it's ladylike, Sansa said, laughing even harder. Oh, no wonder she hates me so much. Haha, if I knew you were going to tell her that, I would have won the war faster, just to see her face, I laughed. It was all good until she sent me to my room, and punished me, Sansa pouted. I'll say it was worth it, I laughed. Arya seems to agree with you, she says that we are a new breed of ladies, the cool ladies, Sansa giggled. Oh god, ha ha ha, your sister is adorable, I laughed, choking a bit on my sub. She can be, sometimes, Sansa agreed with me. What did your father say, though? I inquired, cleaning my tears. He didn't say much, he found it amusing, but let mother punish us nonetheless, Sansa answered. We continued talking for hours as we ate, and drank, juices of course. I really needed this, I haven't laughed in quite a while. Chapter 23, Chapter 22. After my little incident with Theon, I took some time to cool off, and roughly a couple of days after, I decided it was time to go back to Bear Island. Lord Stark so far had decided to keep the betrothal and unite our families even more. Theon on the other had died during that time, blood loss, severe trauma, and infection, but nobody can blame me. Robb was angry, but understood things like that can happen in duels or the likes, but he was also angry at Theon for insulting his sister. My situation with Sansa was weird now. Sansa was quite infatuated with me now, becoming a bit too clingy, but I suppose it is because she thinks I started a war to protect her, which was not the case. I did it because it had to be done. She was just a good excuse to do so, without getting any repercussions. This of course is not all bad, it was my end goal, and it will make my life easier once we marry. But it was too soon perhaps. Nonetheless, it was time to continue with my business ideas and evolve the north. With the hydroponic sheds being built in the north, I had to focus on finding who could provide silkworms. With them I would be able to create one of the most expensive items in the world, but for that to happen I would have to create some sort of warm environment for them. The harsh cold of winter would kill my poor silkworms in a matter of seconds. But now that I had Pike, I could expand my business there. After all, the climate there was warmer and more welcoming to this type of business. While by southern standards it was still cold, it was considerably less than any place in the north. Welcome home, my lord, Maege said with a warm gruff. Her eyes showed she was uncomfortable, not with me, but with our two visitors. Tywin and Tyrion Lannister. I had known for quite some time the lions were in my cave, and I knew why, and frankly it was getting boring. Take me to them, I sighed, as I turned my gaze to Sansa. I'm going to take care of some businesses. Take care, Sansa smiled. Follow me, Maege said without even questioning how I knew the lions were in my house. The room was dimly illuminated by candles, and had 3 chairs and a table. In one was sitting Tyrion drinking wine, while his father read a book. Lord Mormont, what a pleasant surprise, Tywin said, not even looking up from his book. Likewise Lord Lannister, to what do I owe this unexpected surprise? I inquired, taking the last empty chair, as I dismissed Maege out of the room. Please, let's not. I am well aware you knew I was here, Tywin said, putting his book on the table. Your spy network is on par with the spider. The difference is that unlike the spider, you can't be spied on. This was refreshing. I didn't expect him to be so straightforward. So you sent your son to do that? I think there are other ways to get rid of him, I chuckled. I agree with Lord Mormont, Tyrion chuckled back. You know why we are here, so let's talk about that. Tywin ignored us. Fine, my answer is no. I can also recite that in Low Valyrian it was already bad enough that I had to marry a teen soon. I was not going to downgrade this age situation to a kid. The Starks were trustworthy. If I married a Lannister I would wake up one day with a knife on my back, or simply I would not wake up. We can offer you so much more than the Starks, Tywin offered, and his tone said I will give you the North. Of course, he didn't voice this out, but he implied it. Tywin, while a cruel ruthless, never went back on a deal. He would ensure I had the North if I took his deal, but that deal had a unspoken underline, that if I took it I would basically be kneeling to him. For Tywin doesn't have allies, but subordinates, underlings. I know, but I most decline. I'm not interested. I had to thread carefully with him. If he considered an enemy too early into the story, things could get complicated. I gave my word, and I must uphold my honor. Tywin scoffed. Use that sentimental crap with Lord Stark. The offer will be always available, but hear me out. You will never marry Sansa Stark. I chuckled as I stood up my chair. That sounded like a threat, Lord Lannister. It's a warning, I might be interested in breaking the betrothal, but I won't be the one to do it, Tywin said staring at me. When that unavoidable day comes, reach me out. It was pretty clear what he meant. Robert Baratheon will break this betrothal. To be honest, it had crossed my mind once or twice, but I never really considered this to be a real possibility. Robert loved Ned like a brother and would never force him to do that. But what if someone whispered to him, that just like Rhaegar Targaryen, I was stealing Sansa from Joffrey? That alone would be enough to push the drunkard piece of shit to make something rash. You plan on manipulating the deck to your favor, I glared at him. Until then, Lord Mormont, Warden of the Iron Islands, Tywin said, leaving the room. A piece of advice, father always gets what he wants, Tyrion said, leaving the room. So do I, the old lion has his ways, so did I. After the Lannisters left my house, with the imminent warning of a plot starting to boil, I had to prepare. The king could break out betrothal, if was his right as the ruler of the Seven Kingdoms. I couldn't stop that without going to a war I knew I couldn't win. But he can't break a marriage. If I married Sansa, I would ensure to cut the cards Tywin had. But I couldn't marry Sansa until she had her first blood, which brought me back to square one. They can't leave me the fuck alone. Shit just continues to come. Everyone wants to force me into the game. I just saved my betrothal and now is in fucking danger again. I can't catch a break, can I? Fuck my life. With new problems in my way, I decided to let things flow. I had little control over what the king decided, but maybe I had control over what he heard. It was no secret Cersei Lannister was against the idea of me and Myrcella all the way. If I played my hand correctly, I could acquire a temporary ally, to destroy the plot Tywin is boiling. But Cersei was a wild card. She was as unpredictable as they come, so I had to be sure of thinking this through. My other option was to befriend the drunkard bastard, and ensure he would not be manipulated against me. Or option C, I could use Lord Stark's connection to the king. So how was the meeting? Sansa inquired, entering my solar. Well, good is not a word I would use it to describe it, I sighed while getting a cup of wine. What happened? Sansa inquired, and for a moment I pondered, whether to be honest with her or not. She is to be my wife, so I should start trusting her more, and if by some reason they broke the betrothal, she needed to know why, so I decided to explain what happened. Well, you might wanna sit down for this one, I sighed as I started to explain in detail the situation currently threatening our betrothal. She had to grow up sometime and understand that in this world, everyone plays the Game of Thrones whether they like it or not, and that even if she didn't want to, she was another player. Varys POV. A few months ago, the Queen ordered me to request a faceless man to kill Lord Mormont. Frankly, it was a tad much, but the Queen is like that. The faceless man operate in mysterious ways. The harder the target to kill, the higher the price. How they know how hard a person would be to kill is unknown, but they have their ways. When I asked for a quote, they gave me none. They simply informed said contract was no possible. It was clear they didn't want to take the contract, but why they didn't want to was unclear. Their words were even more mysterious. A man cannot kill that man. A life that has been blessed by the stranger is hard to take away, the faceless man said, leaving with me a new enigma. If a group of assassins that considered any life to be expendable considered him to be, as they called, blessed by their god, something was going on. Lord Mormont was already an unexpected mystery for me, and now things continued to make him more and more enigmatic. The Queen will not be happy with the price, I sighed as I walked down the hallway to meet her. If there was one thing I hated about this was not knowing, and I didn't know a thing about him. Chapter 24, Chapter 23. It's been a month since I explained Sansa the situation we were in. She understood with simplicity of what was going on, but reacted as one would expect of a child, panicking, but like me, she shared the idea that I should contact the king. But considering Lady Stark wanted to end our betrothal, this was quite a delicate situation, so I decided to send a raven to deliver the message. Telling Lord Stark about the plots the lions were cooking, while I focused on other important matters, getting my silkworms, apparently there was one merchant in Essos that sold the little bastards, and he happened to be the one that had something I wanted. 3 dragon eggs. Magister Illyrio, not only he had a contact with someone that distributed silkworms for silk farms but also had 3 dragon eggs at his disposal, and he didn't know about their real value. If I managed to buy those little eggs I would ensure that Daenerys never became a threat, to me at least. But those weren't the only dragon's eggs in the world. In total there were 5 eggs in this world, according to the books at least. One would be found or will be found by Euron Greyjoy, who will proceed to be an idiot and throw it into the sea, and the last one location is unknown. Some say is in Dragonstone, others say in Beyond the Wall, but no one can say for sure. With this in mind I ordered one of my krakens, 2 ravens and many other fish to find Euron, and keep an eye on him. Should he find the dragon egg I would take it from him and kill the last Greyjoy. If I managed to collect all the dragon eggs I would acquire 5 dragons, 5 mythical flying fire-breathing beasts. And I would become nearly unstoppable. I heard you are leaving, to Essos, Sansa said, entering my solar. It has been a month since we got back to Bear Island and she was clearly not happy with me leaving so soon, but things had to be done, and I needed her in Winterfell to advocate against the Lannisters' plans. I'll be back, besides you get to be with your family for a bit. I know you miss Jane, I smiled as I whispered with a smirk, an area. Fine, but just so you know, Mother will try to persuade me to break our betrothal, Sansa pouted. That's why you will talk with your father, only he can convince the king. As of now he hasn't break anything. I knew Sansa would talk with her father, and that Lord Stark knew thanks to my messenger what the Lannisters were plotting, and the wolves hated the lions, so with all this information he would at the very least show resistance to any idea about breaking my betrothal. I know, I have to be the one in our side, now that Mother is against us, Sansa sighed, grabbing my hand softly. Yes, you have, until we marry, I nodded, reciprocating her gesture. Be safe, I'll be back in a couple months, after I ensure some trading routes with Essos. And I'll be waiting, Sansa smiled. With Sansa going to stay with her family for a bit, and with me going over to Essos, things were starting to align in my favor. Everyone kept pushing into the game, one way or another they wanted me to play, so perhaps I had to play, so that I could destroy the game once and for all. I wasn't entirely sure, but one thing was sure, if I didn't play, they would keep poking me, testing my limit until I snapped. But to play the game I needed more than what I had, so I was determined to buy the dragon eggs the Magister had, and by the information I had, those 3 babies were quite expensive. But I would pay their hatched weight in gold if I had to. 3 dragons would highly increase my possibilities of winning. Sir, the ship is ready, one of the Ironborn said, respect and some light adoration in his eyes. No one would believe they wanted to kill me a couple of months ago. Then let's go, I ordered, getting inside the ship. My trip to Essos was, as I expected to be, boring and incredibly long. It would take a couple more days to arrive. Part of me was excited to see this new unknown land, but another part of me was stressed. The possibilities of finding my father and the bitch he married to were big. But I didn't have time to cling into the past. Without him being an idiot letting his dick control him, I wouldn't be here. I needed control to have success, and by no means the idiot of a father I was given in this life had the brain nor vision to understand that. We should be there in 5 days, my lord, the captain informed me. Good, I nodded, letting him know I wanted to be alone. But other thoughts crowded my mind. What if Sansa didn't succeed and Tywin managed to whisper the right words to the king? I had no political power to stop that. If the king said so, I was destined to lose her. Perhaps this was the way of the gods to show me, I should be king. Only then, I would have the power to break this wretched wheel of plots and power. Ronard Mormonti, the first of his name, I chuckled as I served a cup of wine. The things these political sharks push me to do. Perhaps this was the only way. Why aim for lordship when you can aim for kingship? Well, I hope you are happy, Tywin, because I'm in. Let the game begin. Cersei Lannister POV. Father wanted to break the betrothal between Ronard and Sansa, saying we needed to strengthen our bonds with the North. And had succeeded in manipulating the idiot I have for a husband. All it took was a couple of words to revive his emotions to what happened with Lyanna, and Robert started to consider breaking the betrothal. I don't know how, but he convinced Joffrey of supporting this charade, probably appealing to his sadistic side. Joffrey is into this just because it will bring sorrow to others. Robert has yet to make a decision, but one way or another the old lion gets his way. Robert Baratheon POV. Tywin came to visit. That old lion is nothing but trouble, but brought something to my attention that it was worth noticing. Tywin said that Sansa should be betrothed to Joffrey. At first I didn't mind, but Joffrey all of the sudden was infatuated with her. What if this was like Lyanna and me? I can't allow that to happen. What should I do? Damn it. Ned. It should have been you in this fucking chair. I growled as the wine boy poured more wine in my cup. HRMMMM idiot the king is, YRSSS unbeknownst to the king an incredibly wise and powerful raven was seeing everything. Joffrey Baratheon POV. Grandfather came and offered me a deal. He said I would make two important people suffer if I accepted. All I had to do was to make father believe I wanted Sansa Stark. I was delighted with the idea. The only bad part was I had to marry an ugly northerner, but I was to be king. And a king can do as he pleases. After I'm done with her I'll just kill her and make that bastard in the north suffer even more knowing he never had her. I can't wait to see them suffer. Varys POV. Tywin had made his play, quite a dangerous one might I add. He is manipulating the king to do his bidding, so that the crown has the north, and so that he can betroth his granddaughter to the young lord. This will end bad, I can feel it. The tides of the game are changing, and the realm is in danger. I wonder if this will make Lord Mormont enter the game? He is now one of the big players. Things are just getting complicated. Chapter 25, Chapter 24. Essos, or to be precise Pentos, was quite a charming place. It almost made the month-long trip worth it. The place was like most tropical places with sun, beaches, and a lot of business. But I didn't come here for pleasure. I had a mission, or I should say I had two missions. First I had to get some silkworms to produce silk and sell it in West Eros, and two I needed to buy the dragon eggs Magister Illyrio had. There was always the possibility the eggs would not hatch while in my possession, but even if they didn't hatch it was infinitely better than to allow someone else to have an edge on me. Even if they didn't hatch they were worth their price, because I would be taking a threat out of the equation long before it became a threat. You guys stay in the ship and protect it, I ordered my man as I stepped out of the ship. Aye my lord. The men shouted in agreement. Finding Magister Illyrio wasn't that hard at all it took was ask a couple of locals, and I was soon heading in the right direction. Though there was a little cloud of doubt looming above my head. What if he refused to do business with me because he supports the Targaryen? And if he did accept to make a trade route with me, would I meet Viserys? For what I read in the books he was quite the pretentious moron, so he might want to make me kneel for him. That or offer me Daenerys' hand in marriage if I give him my army, which was tempting by itself. If he did, he would die and I would have a claim to the throne. Of course this was in the case Robert Baratheon was stupid enough to make an enemy of me by breaking my betrothal to Sansa. I didn't want to break my betrothal not because I loved Sansa, because I didn't, but because I wanted to stay out of the game and have a lordly life. I didn't care before who sat in the Iron Throne. But they kept pushing me, testing me, plots within plots to make me their ally, to kill me, or to manipulate me. They forced me into the game. And if the worst case scenario came to happen, and Tywin Lannister succeeded in his mission, well, I would formally enter the Game of Thrones. And Daenerys would give me an army if that happened. Military alliances with Dorne, which by itself was a step in the right direction. I of course would save Sansa even if I didn't love her. She was someone I came to care about. I wouldn't stay and watch her suffer under the lions. But all this was just based on the hypothetical scenario Tywin succeeds in breaking my betrothal. Sometimes I wondered, what would have happened if I killed him in Bear Island? A man can dream. I just don't understand what is he thinking. I understand he wants Sansa to keep the north, but what makes him think I will accept Myrcella after all the shit he is putting me through? Does he really thinks I will just fall in line and bend my knee to him? I will enjoy killing the old man, I chuckled drily, fantasizing of all the ways I would torture the old lion before cutting his miserable head. I might even make a weekend out of it. Robert Baratheon POV. Jonaran, that man was like a father to me, and all of the sudden he was death. One day he was scolding me for spending too much gold on whores and drinks, and the next he was gone. I was left alone in this nest of vipers. I needed someone I could trust. I needed Ned with me, here ruling for me while K-Horde, the way it was supposed to be. I also needed to ensure my son didn't marry someone like his mother, full of vile and hate. In the end, Sansa was the best choice for him. Ned was honorable and so were his kids, the Mormont brat would understand. My son wanted Sansa, and perhaps if he married out of love, and not like I did with the viper of his mother, he would have a better married life. It was time to go to the north, and get my last friend alive to help me rule this shitty place. Back to Ronard POV. Magister Illyrio was quite the extravagant man. His castle was extravagant or sure, full of gold and over-the-top expensive decorations. Physically Illyrio was morbidly obese, complete with pig's eyes and fat cheeks with a disgustingly oily-looking beard. Personally, all I knew about him was that he was one of the only friends Varys had, and that he supported the Targaryens. "Welcome Lord Mormont," Illyrio said warmly. He didn't seem to have any hostility against me. Then again, he was a businessman and it was a requirement to hide your emotions while making businesses. "A pleasure to be here, Magister Illyrio," I smiled, offering my hand for a handshake which he took reluctantly. "So what brings you all the way here to Essos?" Illyrio inquired as we walked through his garden. "I want to make some trade routes, and buy some things I was told only you can provide," I admitted. "I see," Illyrio hummed, "I'm glad I can be of assistance, and by the way, if you don't mind, can I ask you a few questions?" "Sure, be my guest," I nodded, intrigued to what he wanted to know. "How is Westeros? All I get is outdated information," Illyrio chuckled. "Well, that is one complicated questions with an even complicated answer," I chuckled. I knew what he was doing. He wanted to see where my alliances align with, well, for starters, the Ironborn are no longer raiding or raping. "Did the god themselves descend?" Illyrio inquired. I knew he knew about it. He is friends with the spider, he has to be at least well informed. "In a way," I sighed, "I was tired of their ways, so I took control over them." "So you are the new warden of the Iron Islands," Illyrio said in a matter-of-fact way. "Yes," I nodded. "Very well, so what did you wanted to buy from me?" Illyrio inquired, seemingly done with the questions for now. "I want silkworms, as many as you can provide, and a collectible item you have." It was the moment of truth. Would he sell me the eggs or deny their existence? "What item, may I ask?" Illyrio inquired curiously. 3 dragon eggs, I informed him. "I want to buy them from you." For a moment Illyrio was quiet and didn't say a word, and I expected the worst, but after a minute he said, "Sure, I will be sad to part with them, but the gold will soothe that pain. They are quite expensive, you know." "Gold is not a problem," I smiled. I had succeeded at least in one of my endeavors so far. "Just what I like to hear," Illyrio laughed, making his belly and man-tits bounce in a disturbing manner. "The silkworms will take a couple of months, they are brought from far away. You are welcome to stay with me during that time." I smiled. "That sounds lovely, I just have to let my men know we'll be here for a while then." "You came without guards to my castle. While the trust is appreciated, Essos is not safe. I'll send some Unsullied with you," Illyrio said. Little did he know, unless a battalion came for me, I was good. "Thanks once again," I smiled, as I took off back to my ship with a dozen Unsullied guards protecting me. Varys POV. I had contacted Illyrio beforehand, when I found out the young lord of the Iron Islands and the Bear Island was on his way to meet him. If we played our cards well, we could gain a powerful ally to the realm. All my old friend had to do was ensure he stayed for a bit. The king, Robert Baratheon, was never a good man in keeping relationships. Dorne already hates him, and now that he is in process to break the betrothal between the young lord and Sansa, and he will also make an enemy of the Iron Islands. But like they said, the enemy of my enemy is my ally. This opened a new realm of possibilities. The young bear was smart, capable, and a dangerous foe, but if we moved the tides to our favor, his tides to our favor, and presented him with an option once his betrothal ended abruptly, we would gain his support to put the Targaryen dynasty back in the throne. It was certainly better to marry the princess to someone in the realm. Her brother had other ideas. But I didn't know how he would react. He was in the end a wild card. I'll be leaving to Essos for some business, tell the king and queen, I told Pycelle. For what? Pycelle inquired. To renegotiate the price of a life like the queen asked me to. Lies, 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 lies make the world run and keep castles together. How I dream of a world without lies.